Australian internet. Here we go. We're live. All right. G'day everyone, I'm the Mangle Kimo Subby, the member playing from the land down under, and I'm joined, Leighton Denny. G'day Dave, g'day Era Comics. Great to see some people turn up to say g'day. I am doing this design stream with a good mate of mine. We're just going to call him Aardvark Comics right now, but I've known this guy for, what do you reckon, mate? I'd say like 2015?
No. 2000
Fuck you, Lee. You're wrong. No.
Yeah, no. 2017, I think it was.
Oh, there you go. I'm really old, so my sense of time is all over the place.
That's my line.
Get out of here. Cheeky. Danny. Screw that guy. Good stuff. See you. G'day. Good stuff. Comics. I know there's big launches and stuff happening later today, but I appreciate you guys turning up just for a bit, just to say g'day and see what we're up to. So, my mate Aardvark Comics here. Him and I, we were part of it's like a loose writing collective, wasn't it?
Yeah, just a group of guys, kind of sharing ideas. Didn't really pan out the way that we expected it to, but we're all still in touch, and we still get together on occasions and hash out some ideas. Yeah,
it's a great. I often talk about how people need editors, and if you can't get an editor, get beta readers at least. Get someone who's able to read your stuff and say, hey, this worked or this didn't. And that was probably the most valuable thing I found from that collective, was just people being able to read your stuff and say, you say, I was going for this. And they're like, I didn't really get that. I got more of this vibe. You're like, okay, it makes you rethink, well, am I doing it right? Is that the right way to sort of handle this perspective that I'm after?
Yeah,
you always think that you know best, and you think, because you wrote it for you, you're your own ideal target audience, so it works for you. But when you have someone, I remember that one I was doing about that female crime boss, trying to take over her father's crime legacy in the city after he passed and everything. And I was going for a particular vibe, and you guys were like, no, that didn't land that way at all. So I had to rethink how I was doing that. That's valuable. You need to hear that, because the amount of books I read where people think they're landing it the right way and it's not quite happening, you need to hear that other people aren't seeing it from your perspective.
Yeah. And what I found was that it gave me a lot of confidence as well, because I hadn't shared anything I'd ever written before. And I was terrified that I wasn't going to be very good or whatever. And now I'm a bit less unconfident, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've always had a lot of praise for your writing. You impressed me early on with your, you got that classic style that's designed for 22-page floppies. That style, that sort of, same bat time, same bat channel. It gives you a story, it resolves. I'm more of a Netflix writer, and that's, I shouldn't have said it like that. Not a binge writer, what am I trying to say? Somebody who, setting up these big long-term stories. Like, you watch an episode of Netflix and nothing actually gets resolved in that episode, and that can be really frustrating. I'm trying to move out of that. But I found with your writing, every issue, and I've read, half a dozen issues of each one of your IPs that you got going, and each one had some sort of resolution, like it told a story, and you get to the end of it, like, okay, I see the bigger overarching story plot threads that are going on. Do
you want to know what was my it's really obscure kind of when you're considering that I write superhero comics. My kind of inspiration on that was, if you ever watch Curb Your Enthusiasm, things from the start come back and bite him in the arse, but you forget about it for the entire episode. You forget about it for the entire episode, and ultimately the B plot and the A plot intertwine and come up with a punchline at the end of the show. And I always found that's a really good way of writing something, is to start off with something, create a new storyline, focus on that, and then the kind of jigsaw pieces all fall together at the end. And that's kind of my philosophy when it comes to writing short comics, about 22 pages or whatnot. Doesn't quite work as well with a kind of epic, long form kind of story, but it works for easy to 22-page comics.
And I think in CG in particular, more and more, and the indie scene, but just I interact with a lot of CG people, so I sort of hear their perspectives. We'll talk about the character that we're designing in a minute. I'm just rambling at the moment. More and more of them are sort of saying they want self-contained stories because there is this 6 months to year-long wait from issue to issue. They don't want to be waiting 6 months to 12 months to see how plot issue A resolves. If you can give them a concise, complete story in one go with ongoing plot threads from volume to volume, year to year, I think that's going to be the winning model. If you can pick up, and that was a classic idea. The kid who bought Spectacular Spider-Man 221 might not have been able to afford Spectacular Spider-Man 230. The next issue is what I'm trying to say, or they might not. They might not have the paper, lose the newspaper around. There might not be enough lawns to mow. They might not have access to it. You might be traveling through a bigger city. You might be from some little podunk. You're traveling through the big city, and you come across these comics and you buy one issue, but you can't afford the next one, or you're not around in that city to buy the next one. You needed to have a complete story so they felt satisfied. And those old stories, you could pick them up and get a complete story from it. You just be entertained for that time that you read that story, and it didn't have this. There was a binge culture Netflix style of doing things where you have to watch. I mean, you look at the Punisher series and the Daredevil series and that, Luke Cage, Iron Fist. Like it took 4 episodes before Iron Fist actually used his powers for the first time. They really wanted to push that. Shouldn't have done that. That idea that he was mentally unstable and wasn't who he said he was. They really pushed that idea to the detriment of the larger storyline.
It put of all those Netflix shows. I feel that it got a bad rep, but that's probably not going to do me any favors saying that. But it was detrimental, because when you think of Iron Fist, you think of Eastern mysticism, and that was all completely absent from the show for the first. Beyond some vague references and kind of personality quirks that Danny was showing, that was virtually invisible in the entire show, and it put a lot of people off. If you'd have gone in there all guns blazing, or at least all fists firing, would be a better way of, even with flashbacks or like a prelude, or just something that kind of shows what's going on with the show.
It just like it didn't know what it wanted to be. It was almost like it was embarrassed. The way they kept referring to the dragon. It's like there's no such thing as dragons. It's like, yeah, bro, there's totally dragons. That didn't land right for me. I didn't like the way they did that. If you're embarrassed with your source material, if you're ashamed of it, don't make it. What are you doing? Go work on. Go make some edgy TV comedy about some 20-something-year-old in New York trying to make it, but there's some obstacle. Blah blah. I don't care. Whatever. Don't come and ruin Iron Fist for us. So do you want to talk about the character that we're looking at today, mate? Because I'm just sort of smashing out some vague stuff relative to what we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
You want to give us a bit of orientation?
Yeah, sure. So the comic that I'm working on is going to be just a 22-page short comic about a intergalactic space cop. And I say that meaning he travels through space and he stops crimes. He doesn't stop big universe-ending threats, at least not yet. He focuses on bank robbers and people who stick up gas stations, and people who smuggle animals. Small-time cops, but in outer space. And I felt that was really good setup, because, like you were saying, people don't want to read something and then have to wait 6 months to see what happens next, especially with something, as street level almost. My comic's not going to be. It's not street level in that it's takes place in downtown in parts of Manhattan. It's street level in the sense of
the stakes are street level.
Yeah, it's cops and robbers, but in on in a space age backdrop, and the character that is in question, and the name of the comic is going to be Aquila, and that's the guy who's in my Avi, was drawn by Kemosabe. He worked on the character with me over time after I don't know how many renditions of the character, but it started out as this drawing of a Roman soldier superhero that I did on a notepad, and I eventually worked on it, and I kind of liked the idea, and that's where the name comes from. It's from the Roman, the ancient Roman symbol, the Aquila. But he's part of a intergalactic space force called the Phoenix Guard, and he is one of many. But he's got this sector of space, which is our solar system, all to himself. He's the only cop in a part of space which is largely forgotten. One of the reasons why so much crime happens in the solar system is because it's forgotten about by everybody else. Nothing's going on here. There's no Coruscant. There's no big space highways going through. It's just a backwater, and it's regarded as such. So a lot of space criminals like to do all their activities in beyond the Kuiper belt and in the trans-Neptunian objects and in parts of space where there's not really much going on. And he's the only cop. He's the only cop with his hands full, fighting crime. Ultimately, to defend his home system, because he is from Earth. He is he's actually a small town cop from Nebraska who's been pulled up into space because he was a brave, noble, heroic cop. He was pulled up into space, and given this job.
Cool. I always like the like you said, that street level sort of feel, that small stakes. He's because he humanizes stuff. Even though these guys are all aliens. I look at Dean in the chat. He says, "Hi, Kemosabe to draw his characters. You seem confused. Kemosabe is a writer. # just a writer."
I've known him as a artist longer than I've known him as a writer. I mean, he's always been both, but I've seen more of his art than I've seen,
Yeah. I was going to say, like, they're all alien characters aside from Aquila himself, but it's all very, very humanized because of the small scale stakes and because there's a familiarity with the way that with the aesthetic, that sort of retro ray gun aesthetic. All right, so we've got a basic structure here. So give me a little bit more direction. I know this is not exactly what you're thinking, but from here, where would you like me to take it?
So this character that we're drawing, his name is Ursatz, Ursatz, and he is basically a Mad Max gang lord who operates in the desolate parts of the solar system, and he's a smuggler. And him and his gang like to con people with counterfeit and illegal goods. So, like I said, I did say Mad Max kind of aesthetic, and I was imagining something very spiky with, that kind of Warhammer 40k orc aesthetic almost. But he is basically, if you really want to put it simply, he's a space Sasquatch, which is hard to say. He's a space Bigfoot with the temperament and the kind of ferocity of a grizzly bear.
Sasquatch sounds like I've often joked about how in CG there's a lot of you got like Cowboy Octopus, you've got Shinobi Sasquatch, you've got all these characters that are like urban myth / job. You got like pirate zombie. You've got these people just take like a monster and a vocation and slap it together.
Yeah.
And Space Sasquatch, like he's the bad guy, but it sounds like he could nearly be another CG property simply by.
It definitely
virtue.
could be.
Yeah.
Or Space Yeti or something like that. Space Sasquatch is a bit of a mouthful.
It is. Do you think in bone spikes or metal spikes? Because that's going to look different, isn't it? Bone spikes is going to be smoother, and metal spikes can be more jagged, like the orcs have.
Yeah, I was imagining like bits of scrap metal, kind of, torn off pieces of spaceships that he's derelicted in his battles, and him and his crew have gone in and salvaged all the material from it to sell it to junkyards and to to unsuspecting buyers. He's a black market, sells things on the black market that don't work. He's a all around scumbag.
Yeah, he's a bit like whenever in the movies you see somebody needs the cop or the main character, whatever, needs a lead on the car.
Yeah,
he goes and talks to somebody in a chop shop. Like this guy's. Would it be fair to put him on scale with someone like if you like urban LA type setting or whatever, and you got James Woods needs a lead on the bad guy, and he goes to the local chop shop and he knows the dude. So, oh Benny, where's the VIN numbers for these cars? Like, hey, come on, I'm paid up this month. Like this guy's like an intergalactic space chop shop dude, taking vehicles apart and reselling them, and like I said, doing a bit of that smuggling, and nothing's licensed, nothing's got the right numbers or serial numbers on it.
I'd say he's even like scummier than that. He's not like an antiques, bargain antiques kind of snake oil salesman, that kind of thing. He's basically just a gang lord, and he goes around and he intimidates people into paying extortionate prices for his shoddy goods, or beating his competition, trying to force people into buying illicit substances from him, that kind of thing. He doesn't sell drugs, but he sells other kind of illegal black market stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and how big of a threat do you see this guy? Like if you were to put him up against a character that we know. And we can talk more about like sort of Aquila's power levels and power set in a bit if you want.
Yeah.
Where would you rate this guy? Because a lot of aliens, just by bent of their biology, and I know that you're big on like evolutionary I haven't had a drink yet. Evolutionary biology to make sure that things are kosher and make sense and fit the world that they come from. Where's this guy stand on that sort of thing?
So he's a big guy. For you, I would say he's probably Aquila wears a suit that enhances all of his powers. I don't know what magnitude it does, but it's the same way where he's almost like Iron Man, right? Iron Man puts on the suit. Mm-hmm. He's just a normal guy underneath, but when he puts on the suit, he's superpowered, basically.
And I'll ask you a question real quick. Just going to jump in. If you don't know the answer, that's okay. I just if Arnold Schwarzenegger put on the suit and I put on the suit, peak Arnold's put on the suit and I put on the suit, will we have the same strength, or is it relative?
It's relative.
Awesome. Yeah, that's cool, because there's kind of like in The Mask when the bad guy gets the mask in that, and he uses it so much more lethally than Jim Carrey did. There's potential for story and conflict there, That's
it amplifies your your strength. It doesn't necessarily just increase it. It increases it. That's not the word I'm looking for. It doesn't increase it to a certain number. It just amplifies what's already there, because it's not like a mecha suit. It's not like a Iron Man suit in that kind of sense. It's almost the closest thing I can compare it to would be like a Power Ranger suit, where
I should have realized how much you love Power Rangers.
Well,
this dude loves Power Rangers.
Well, yeah. Well,
you and Dean will get along fine. Dean
that's the kind of way I'm imagining it.
Yeah.
And then Ursat's can punch Aquila, and he'll go flying off into the distance with one punch. So he's a really tough guy. He's really strong. He's not quite, Hulk, but I think he could probably tolerate a couple of punches from the Hulk before he was maybe like 5 or 6 punches. He might even get 2 or 3 in on Hulk himself, because he fights like a savage. He's barely brutal.
So would you say that he's sort of Spider-Man, superhuman class 10 tons?
I've not really thought about about power levels.
No, sometimes if you keep it flexible, it gives you the range to do other stuff later on. Sorry, Dad, I'm not sure where they are. How's this looking at the moment? I haven't made him very bear-like yet. We can do something with that in a minute.
Right now, I'm imagining him being toothier, fangs, and like warthog kind of tusks, that sort of thing.
Okay, yeah, cool. Definitely going for that 40k orc vibe then.
I want him to be an ugly bastard.
Well, Dean's in the chat. Dean, send us a photo. Dean's a pussy hand. It's ridiculous. He's always telling me, he's like, "Oh, I smashed this chick last night." It's ridiculous. I don't know how he does it. He's a bad boy. Women love a bad boy.
I was listening to some Steve Austin podcast a while ago.
Oh yeah,
and I can't remember why he was prefacing his podcast with this, but he was talking about how he'd had a sex dream with a female Sasquatch.
that's so Austin. That's so on point.
He had to emphasize female. He had to keep on saying female Sasquatch.
I saw on Twitter it was like a Sasquatch romance book. Like somebody then I saw a dinosaur one. It's like romancing the Velociraptor or something. And it's just this chick making out with a dinosaur. What the hell is happening on Amazon?
Don't the internet has exposed a lot of things. I think and it's also given kind of voice to a lot of things that otherwise
should never have been voiced.
And there are some people who watch Jurassic Park and get a bit of a thrill.
You just got to wonder what's their brain, like what's pinging in their brain that I can't believe some of the absolute dead set Ripper Legends in the chat. We got 6-scale combat here, creator and artist and writer and inker and penciler and colorist of the Napalm Brothers, one of my top 10 books of 2020. And Napalm Brothers 3 is currently funding right now on Indiegogo and Kickstarter. I bought the all-in-one pack, so I'm getting everything. I'm getting all the books, all the tchotchkes, the t-shirt, the whole lot. We got D-Wags here, Avow the Bow every day, # no cowards, smoke crack every day. Dr. Dre didn't know what he's talking about. Smoke weed every day. He was shortchanging himself. Smoke crack every day. All these top blokes. Max Hedstrom did fantastic work on Roken, fantastic alternate cover, variant cover on the Napalm Brothers. Check out his work if you haven't seen his work. He's like classic Simon Bisley. If you've got anybody who's got any sort of like big punchy action, over the top, cyborg, 2000 AD, horror type story line, I would be definitely hitting up Max for a cover or some work or whatever, because his stuff is like he's this is going to sound like sacrilege, but he's on like Bisley's level, in my opinion. The work he's doing with the, I'm not sure what he uses. It's got sort of like a more of an acrylic postery paint sort of texture, but the dimensionality and the weight and the characters and everything, I'd put him up there with Bisley. Honestly, it's just fantastic watching him work and watch the stuff that he comes through with. My boy Buddha Juice was in here earlier. Buddha Juice, another fantastic talented artist, did a great pin-up for the company, man. Doing work currently on The People with the Diaz brothers. It's the truth. He's good, man. He's really, really good. I'm honored to have so many cool people turn up and just say good day while we're going through and just trying to be more than a writer. # more than a writer.
Yeah, nice to see everybody. Nice to see everybody here.
Very cool community. Very cool people. And it's not about labels. It's just about just making cool comics. What about the proportions on this guy? Is the physicality right? Is that the sort of do you want him more like like squat, Or is that like is he too? This is almost like Colossus's physique, isn't it?
He's too lean.
Too lean, sure.
He's too lean. Yeah, I kind of want bigger shoulders, head more into the head more. Yeah.
We can do that. Well, there's a certain amount of stretch you can give before it starts to look warped. Like this, to me, this doesn't look warped. This looks like that's how I drew it, But once you go past a certain point, it gets tricky. So we can move the head down and make it more. Is that?
Yeah.
And we'll put some punched shoulders.
Yeah, because I wanted it like kind of heaving brute, whereas there he kind of looks like a noble savage,
Yeah. That's the thought I was having, that he's almost too much like one of the, like you talk about people wanting to bang dinosaurs. I'm sure there's people out there that want to bang the Warcraft orcs. World of Warcraft orcs.
That's a certainty. People. There's a reason why they had to didn't Blizzard have to create a whole task force to stop people from getting up to no good on World of Warcraft servers where they put the mods weren't watching.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. All right, so we'll move that arm out a bit so we've got a bit more space, which means we need to widen his hips more as well. Otherwise, he's going to look very. I like top heavy can work, but I think like you're thinking like he's very squat, like he'd fit in this box, like Ben Grimm. Like Ben Grimm.
Yeah,
fits in a box. He's very, you know what I mean? It's
more more kind of Brock Lesnar than Eddie Guerrero.
Oh, I mean, Eddie, I never appreciated Eddie until he got that big push later on. I remember when he come over with the with Dean Malenko on that, and I just didn't appreciate what those guys were doing. And then you got guys like Perry Saturn were given just like such a bad gimmick. But looking back at Eddie's stuff now, like I know there's sort of like this hero worship of Eddie now that he's gone, and then being some pushback against that. There's people saying, okay, he was good, but he wasn't that good. You guys are playing it up because he's passed on, and I can't get his hand right. I'm shocking at drawing hands. Hashtag just an artist. But you go back and see his stuff. He was a lot better than I gave him credit for. I didn't really appreciate his character because he seemed smaller and he didn't seem like big time, But it took Chris Jericho winning the undisputed title before I could start to see guys of that size as being able to hang with the big guys. I remember when Rock and Jericho and I don't know who else is going for it.
Are you talking about the undisputed title win?
Yeah, Austin and Rock and Jericho.
Austin, Rock, Jericho, and
was Triple H in there?
Triple H, yeah, I think.
Yeah. So I mean, everybody naturally expected Jericho to be the first out because he's not a big guy.
Yeah.
He's not 6'4" and 240 pounds like Rock, Austin, and Triple H. Rock, Austin, and Triple H, you got all in the same sort of area of physique sort of thing, and you expected Jericho to be the first one out, and he ends up winning the whole thing. Spoilers.
Yeah, you could. There is an argument to be made there, though, that they did kind of take that a bit too far. Mm-hmm. Now you've got a lot of guys who are.
That's where I was going next. Yeah, say it, tell it.
I like Adam Cole. He's good on the mic. It's kind of what you were saying. Like, it's not that they're small. It's that if you look at somebody like Adam Cole, he just looks like a guy. He doesn't look like he goes to the gym. He doesn't look like he, and this is somebody who's got multiple championships and has beaten, he's beaten some quite prestigious, guys. Yeah. And it kind of blows, the suspension of disbelief.
Yeah.
But we're not talking wrestling. But
did you ever see that after Billy Gunn and Road Dogg got caught, I don't know, smoking pot or whatever, like of all the crimes you get in trouble for, smoking pot while you're a wrestler. I suppose you can't go in the ring while you're high, though. That'd be an insurance thing. They got caught doing drugs, and Vince had them do the job against the APA, the Acolyte Protection Agency. And it was a complete squash job. Billy and Road Dogg went out there, and the APA was told, I was just assuming here, was told to hit them as hard as they could. And those guys got hit so hard their boots flew off. They got absolutely squashed. It was like a 30-second match. They knew they were going out there to do the job, to pay penance, and they got their asses beat down in the ring. And, Billy Gunn's 6'4", 230 pounds, 220 pounds, big lean guy, got the abs. He can drop kick. He drop kicks so high, he jumps up in front of you and drop kicks down on you. Like, he's so athletic. Ron Simmons hit him so hard, I'm still hurting from it. Like, these guys did the absolute job. And it made me realize that, as there's a line in a Garth Ennis Punisher comic, and it says, if the guy's 6'6", weighs 300 pounds, no amount of karate is going to help you win that fight. And it made me realize that's true. Years of Van Damme movies and Chuck Norris movies have made me think, like, if you know karate and you can hit them up, no. If a guy's a big guy, they will just tank. You see big guys get hit with tasers, pepper spray, they get shot half a dozen times with the Glock, and they keep going. These guys will absolutely power through this stuff. So, it bugs me when you've got a guy like Daniel Bryan, who his physique's not much better than mine, and he's winning world championship titles. And he can wrestle, and he's good on the mic, and he's got the gimmick, and the people love him. And I think there's definitely space for this idea of like an organic champion, who the people want. You've got to embrace that and go with it. But
he was at his best. He was at his best when he was doing his eco-fascist gimmick in 2019, and it was. He was actually told by like WWE and sponsors and stuff like that, but he had to stop doing it. But it worked because he was this like small guy. He's a vegan. He's going out and he's giving speeches to everybody about how they're destroying the planet, this, that, and the other. Really kind of fantastic. He replaced the belt with a wooden belt.
That's so good.
And he had Eric Rowan as his muscle, and that's the thing that really kind of tied it together, because he's got Eric Rowan, who's like,
massive, absolute beast.
He looks like he's just stepped out of the Viking invasion of Britain, and just like and he's Daniel Bryan's muscle. And it really worked. And I think that kind of like small guy, big guy kind of dynamic works. If you look at it in like anime, right? Like, how did Vegeta show up? Vegeta showed up with Nappa. And Nappa was basically Bill Goldberg, in Saiyan armor.
Oh, yeah.
And Vegeta, Vegeta just kind of stood by watching, shouting orders.
And you don't necessarily expect him. I mean, they sort of gave it away when he one-shotted a whole planet, but they could have really played on that whole thing and had you go, well, he's just a little guy giving the orders, and this guy's the muscle. And we often think, why do big guys? I see it all the time. I'm watching a lot of Walker, Texas Ranger at the moment, as I'll tell anybody who'll listen. And the big tough guys with the real skills, they take orders from the boss man. And it turns out I can't draw a cod piece. I'm not even sure how to draw a cod piece. And I think it's only because of the money. It's like, well, if you really wanted the money, you just say, okay, boss man, I've got a pair of pliers here. I'm going to take bits off you until you transfer $10 million into this week's bank account and then disappear. If you're a bad motherfucker, it doesn't. You can just. I don't see why the guys take abuse from the boss man when the boss man's just some pleb in a suit that doesn't really have any pull. He doesn't really have any ability or any juice. It's just money. So with Nappa, you could be thinking he was the big tough guy, and then Vegeta out of nowhere just one shots a planet. And you're like, oh no, this is a different dynamic. Like in this world, size doesn't matter. It's the size of your power level that matters.
Yeah.
That's.
Well, the other thing is that Vegeta was a prince and he had divine right, and so Nappa would have recognized that.
I didn't think of that. I often forget about Vegeta's heritage. Not being the huge Dragon Ball fan.
So does Akira Toriyama, actually.
You and Dean are getting along great. He loves Dragon Ball. He loves Power Rangers.
Well, yeah, no, yeah. I'm not afraid to dabble in the weeb. The weeb pool. I do. I am learning Japanese actually at the moment.
That's true. That's peak weebery.
You call it weebery. I call it a challenge.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah, but.
How are we liking the physique on this at the moment? Dean said make it wider.
That's a lot. No, if you make him any wider, but no.
No, Connery's here. G'day, mate.
No, that's the kind of physique I was looking at.
Cool.
Maybe you know what? I feel like a doofus for not saying this earlier. But you could add it on afterwards.
Well, this is just the undersketch. Like
he does float around in space fighting. So he does need a kind of breathing apparatus.
Sure. And that's right. We talked about something similar to like a Morton Joe Now,
that's
how does that? How do you want that to? What I could do is I could do like because we've got the tusks there. So unless you want to do like a June little nose breathing apparatus straight up into the nose,
or if the tusks were affixed to the mask.
That's what I was going to say. Like, what if it's like an Onai-esque lower face mask?
Yeah,
design?
or like in 40K when you get the one head per box, which has got no helmet on, yes. And he's got like the lower half of his face of a space marine. The lower half of his face is covered by this breathing apparatus.
Yeah, all right. Let's do something with that. And this is what this whole I like. I love doing this. I've always wanted to do, not always, since I started doing this whole YouTube, Twitter thing. I wanted to do something like this where you just get on and just jam with someone and work your way through some designs, ideas, and stuff, and just brainstorm it on the spot and see what you come up with while you just like exactly what we're doing now is what I wanted to do. I didn't know if it was a viable thing. I didn't know if people would turn up to it. But we got a bunch of people have showed up, and people don't always stick around. They've got other stuff to do. Like I said, I'm pretty sure Lost Pages is launching today. Phil was in the chat earlier saying he was going to invite me on for the Lost Pages launch. I would love to have been there for that. It's such a great book, and I'm a huge fan of it. And like I said, it's probably the CG book so far for me. It's definitely going to be my top 10 books of 2021 at this point. It's inconceivable that it won't make it. It's just such a great book. And I didn't even get to read the whole thing. I didn't even get the supplementary material. It turns out there's a whole bunch of other Lost Pages stuff that I never even got to see. So I'll definitely be backing Lost Pages too.
That's hype. That's coming from you when you spend your life savings on CG books. The amount of CG books that you buy and everything else. That's considering you're putting that book at such a kind of high position on the podium. That's that's really high praise.
More veins, thick.
Could you really see veins beneath his kind of
veins on the codpiece? I don't know what sort of veins they're talking about. Crazy Mad's here. G'day, Crazy Mad. He's a top dude who's always showing up to streams. I can't even call them fans. I'm just like people people you hang out with. You can rely on them to be there. What are you thinking about this mask? Like the pipes coming out the back there. They've got the tusks sort of built into it.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. Yeah.
Do we see him without the mask at all? Just off the top of your head, do you?
No.
So okay. So that design, you don't really need to worry too much about what's below it because that design.
Maybe there's like holes in the mask through which his tusks kind of poke out through.
Or you could it could be custom made perfectly to fit over.
Yeah,
then he couldn't move his mouth to talk, could he? The tusks could be smaller and fit in the apparatus.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Okay, yeah, they don't have to be like crazy orc tusks that go all the way over the top of his eyes like orcs do. Small ones.
He's not a 40K orc where they the bigger teeth.
40% of their head.
Isn't it like their the currency and is
teeth. Yeah. Which is why if you have a short of money, you just go knock someone's teeth out, and it's pure meritocracy. Yeah. They say capitalism's the best system we've ever come up with. I posit that the orcs have come up with a better one, but everyone's just too much of a bunch of cowards to adhere to it. So
that's capitalism, right?
He's quick, ladies and gentlemen. He's quick.
Not in all aspects.
No. We call it over here. We call it a Victor 2-stroke, like the mower. So, is there anything in particular on the design? Like and this comes down to what you want, mate. So you got to be happy with it. I'm feeling the proportions. I'm feeling the mask, the head shape. I like the sparse bit of hair sort of sticking up like the crazy hair. Is there anything in the design itself that you want more or less of? Do you want bigger boots, more bottom heavy, or
the clothes? The clothes are fine. If you could zoom in on the head a little bit for us, please.
I'll just move some more color into that so you can actually see what's going on there.
Yeah, he looks like he's kind of got a bit of a Rogaine situation going on.
Mm-hmm. Hairier?
Yeah. He needs to be hairier. He needs to be
like, Have you got an example like Sasquatch from Alpha Flight or Wolf's Bane with like the crazy big Wolverine hair?
Yeah, just hairier. Like, what's the name of that Incredible Hulk villain? He was like the original Incredible Hulk, and he was a big hairy. You know what I'm talking about? He's a big hairy guy. Zolmu.
Oh yeah, yep.
Somebody in chat help me out. Zenmu. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but
I think that's it. I think it's Zenmu.
If it is, I'll be, But yeah, he needs to be hairier. He needs to be shaggier. Like, there's a character in Rogue One that I know you've not seen because you've never seen any Star Wars things.
It's true.
Is he turning Super Saiyan right now? What's going on with his?
Maybe.
Is it it's the weightlessness of space pulling all this
maybe
hair upwards? Yeah, there's a character.
I'm afraid if we go like too slicked back, he's gonna look like Orc Elvis.
Yeah, there's a character in Rogue One, and he's kind of got. You don't really see him very much, but he's basically a space Sasquatch wearing a breathing apparatus. And I don't know his name because he's not even a character. He's just like some extra they put in a suit, carrying a big gun. But yeah, Sasquatch from Alpha Flight is probably a good shout. Yeah.
Dean, you're welcome at any time, mate.
He's done something. He's called something else now, isn't he? They've made him Gamma. They've made him Gamma.
What is Sasquatch culturally insensitive now?
No, Sasquatch is they've turned him into a Gamma Sasquatch. So he's got like Hulk powers. He's like a Gamma. He's like a green.
Oh,
I can't remember what they've called him. He's got a new name. He's like, I'm not gonna search it. But he's like a green Sasquatch now.
That's yeah. See, I could talk all day about. Well, I won't. Marvel's. I mean, DC did it first, I think, but Marvel's like copying DC years later and doing this whole everyone's a Spider-Man. There's been a million Moon Knights, a million Ghost Riders, there's a million Spider-Mans across a million dimensions, there's a million Reed Richardses.
If everyone's Spider-Man, then nobody's
Spider-Man. No one's Spider-Man. Yeah.
Like, it's disappointing. The thing that makes Peter Parker special isn't so special anymore when everybody else, like when it's a clone, fair enough, it's like it's a direct carbon copy replica of Peter Parker, but when it's like literally everybody Spider-Man has ever met is also Spider-Man, that really takes away from it, I mean, that's an extreme example, but and Miles Morales has got a few different powers, but they still call him Spider-Man.
Yeah, and the fact they've got to say Miles Morales Spider-Man, it's like you can't say that in real life. You can't be in the middle of a fight and say if Peter and Miles are both there in a fight and you're Captain America or whatever, and you want them to do something, you don't say, "Hey, Miles Morales Spider-Man, perform this maneuver," because obviously you're giving away his identity. He needs a different name. It just doesn't work. I'm struggling with his hair, mate. I'm struggling to. I don't know what Dean. Have you got any suggestions for this hair? Dean's a accomplished artist. Dean,
what about if we why don't we try with like long hair, like a kind of
like Reddit's?
No, that's a bit much. Like like Drew McIntyre or something like that. That kind of like hair like straggling down his face, that kind of thing, maybe. I've got an image in my head. It's just I don't know how to explain it. It's frustrating.
Which is why this process is so valuable, because you work through it.
Yeah, Chewbacca, like a Wookiee kind of look was what we were.
Which sort of almost.
A Wookiee is kind of too recognizable.
Yeah.
And it would be... should
have done this on another layer so I can undo it if I don't like it. Looks like Danzig. Mother.
Yeah, it's we're going for like a Mad Max sort of thing. It should have 80s or 70s kind of glam aspects,
Yeah, it looks to me. This looks too much like human hair on a.
No, it doesn't work now.
Yeah. And this is I mean, someone's in the chat saying Dean, why aren't you on the channel telling them to put hoods on their characters? Dean and I went back and forward on the design of the Sinner for, I don't know, I might be exaggerating because in my head time, I don't know if I'm right in the head, honestly, but I feel like it was a month, Dean. I feel like it was a month that we went back and forward on those designs. And everybody liked the hood except me, and it's become a bit of a joke. But that's how you get to this point. That's how you get to the point where you get something that works. I still think no hood's the way to go, but if everybody else think the hoods works, I'm not gonna be contrary. It's not the hill to die on. It's not something I have to have.
Yeah.
I feel like I want to do like bits hanging down off him. Like
this'll sound really kind of almost like a sellout. But the best way to look at it is what will sell the most toys.
Yep.
And what will sell the most, costumes, and what would people want to cosplay, and that would be the kind of the best way to go about it, I would say.
And you do see a lot of that when people, you mean Marvel design will drop and people go, this is garbage, nobody will want to cosplay this. You hear that all the time. People say nobody want to
somebody in the who was it in the chat? Sorry. Yeah, comics mate. He said that's Dean, right?
Yeah.
Dean said less hair on the head and more he is a hairy beast, and that's what I was looking for, really. Yeah,
Okay.
He's completely hairy.
So almost, would it be fair to say almost more like a mane?
Possibly. That's
with just the face, sort of just the face peeking through.
Yeah. And my explanation for that is that he comes from a planet that's very cold.
It works for me.
You know what's interesting about Bigfoot though, and Sasquatches and such. They appear in almost every like every continent has got a variation of the hairy man, And
I can't tell you the indigenous Australian one, but there is
I can tell you
version.
It's
a bunyip.
Yeah,
bunyip and the yowie. Yep.
No, bunyip is a
waterhole creature.
A bunyip is almost like a panther that lives in water. Now we're getting closer to what I was envisioning.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, the in Australia they've got the yowie. And then in Asia and Nepal they've got the Yeti, obviously. In North America they have the Sasquatch, and Bigfoot. Bigfoot is the kind of pop culture name for the Sasquatch, isn't it? Fundamentally.
So right now,
and the abominable snowman as well.
Yep. And they're universal. Even my kids will be like, oh, they see like that's a Yeti. Like they're 3 and 4, and they're like, oh yeah, that's a Yeti. So I'm bringing the hair from his eyebrows up and to merge with the hair from his.
Yep.
So really, it's just so. Okay, so remember Grislaw from He-Man from She-Ra, who worked for Hordak?
I'm gonna.
I'm dating myself there.
I'm gonna break your heart. I have never seen an episode of any He-Man show ever.
Okay, so this stream is over. I disavow. It's done.
Not because of says the guy who's never seen like
Star Wars.
15 minutes of Star Wars. At least I have an excuse. You're some like grandfather, like you've had plenty of years to squeeze in watching Star Wars. I was born in the 90s. My exposure to I nearly said Seaman. That would have been something completely different. Bloody hell.
And nobody else's business, honestly.
my exposure to He-Man The only exposure to He-Man I've ever had was that my cousin gave me one of his, secondhand He-Man toys, and it was some lizard fella, and you could twist his tail, and he'd whip with his tail.
Yeah.
Whiplash, I'm gonna guess is his name.
Yeah.
Because what else would it be? But
That's exactly what it is.
It's exactly that. It's like, what would be the most? Well, again, it's what would sell the most toys, but it's almost like no thought gone into it. He needs an axe. Yeah, that's he does need an axe.
You want an axe?
Yeah, I'm feeling the axe. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Well,
maybe some kind of space axe.
Sure, like Terrax. Oh, that's the wrong layer.
Is that another He-Man thing?
No, that's one of the Heralds of Galactus.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah. Some kind of space axe. I really like the. I'm talking about Power Rangers again, but I really like the way that the Power Rangers, the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, how their weapons double up as they're both guns and close combat weapons. Well, you probably don't know, but the Red Ranger's gun can also become a sword, and the Black Ranger's axe has got like a barrel at the bottom. So the barrel of the handle of the axe is also a barrel of a gun. I'm not sure I'm really explaining it very well, but the best thing to do would just be to kind of look at it.
I think it's the best thing to just go watch all the Power Rangers.
Well, that too, but I don't expect the man who's got children to spend time watching Power Rangers. It's not like you could put on the Power Rangers, which is completely free on YouTube, from the Power Rangers own YouTube website.
I'm sure my kids would love it, to be honest.
Well, yeah, they probably would.
I showed them the old.
Nobody who watched Power Rangers growing up ever turned out, badly.
So like a double-headed war axe or a one.
No, I'm thinking like a one-handed. If he has like a two-handed weapon, I almost think that like takes away from how strong he is. If you get what I'm saying, maybe some just like big ass axe club kind of, but space. maybe he's carved it from a
bigger axe.
He's strapped several axes together that he's taken from his victims.
Yeah, that's cool. I've been doing a lot of Warhammer conversions lately, and one of the
if I was you, I wouldn't make that noise on cam, otherwise the Australian police will break through your door and take you to you've got to be careful, mate. Mute yourself when you're doing that.
Yeah, you got to be absolutely shocking. What's going on here? And there's one weapon that one of the giants has got that I want to use in conversion. It's twice as tall as a regular man is, and it's made up of like swords and axes and shields strapped to a tree branch, like a tree trunk. Sorry, so there's a whole tree trunk, and where the wire of the tree trunk is, the giants wedged swords and axes and tied them, and it's made like this multi-bladed weapon covered in shields. And I thought it was a nice ramshackle way to do that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. A space rapier.
So do you want it techie or do you want it crude?
I'm in two minds. I think crude goes with the rest of the aesthetic, but at the same time, he is like a big crime lord, so he would have a fancy weapon.
So you could do really sleek ceramite, like pipes and tubes and stuff to make it like a power axe, energy axe. Like, okay, so Space Marine versus Orc axe. Space Marine axe is going to be very ornate and bespoke and sleek and clean, whereas an Orc one's just a bunch of blades and stuff jammed together and fixed up with some bolts and duct tape and works because they believe it.
Yeah. What would sell most toys?
Yes, that's right. Let's go crude first.
We could always, if you make two layers, we can experiment and see which looks best. But you've got pretty much like everything down, which is
Yeah, I don't think I'm too bad at this whole.
But I do think, sorry to, I do think need to accentuate how hairy he is. I think his arms should be bare.
Okay.
Excuse the pun. With his, his bare hands. Every man has the right to bear arms.
Mm.
A Sith Mary Poppins. I watched that Star Wars Visions last night. I really liked it. Is that if that's what you're talking about?
Yeah, I think so. Great ideas in the chat. Eye patch made of eyes.
Eye patch made of eyes. Hairy palms. But I think my stream is a little behind the chat. There we go.
So just while I'm thinking about the axe, Six Hell Combat had a good idea to do a human-sized silhouette next to it for comparison. So where do you think Aquila would be? Would it be up to here, like up to his shoulder?
He would be face to face with his nipples.
Yeah,
it's the best way of yeah.
Now the challenge is getting him to getting his feet to land where this guy's feet is. And I don't think it's going to work. I'm going to have to manipulate this a little bit. That's okay. So this brush.
But yeah, Ersatz has got a gang. He's got a gang of other eclectic, hairy, not necessarily hairy. Some are scaly, some are, blubbery. He's got all kinds of. He's got a gang of other eclectic aliens. That his lackeys, his henchmen.
Well, we could maybe do a second stream, and we can smash out a couple of those.
Sounds
just
good,
so you got those for reference for your. Because it's not talking out of school to say this book's being worked on right now, is it?
No. Yeah, it's first few pages are more or less done. As far as I know. I've not seen them yet, but I've seen a few sketches, and it looks like he's getting there. But Ersatz is going to appear after the first few pages, so gotta get him down.
Yeah.
But he's the major bad guy for this. Like I said, it is just cops and robbers, so he's not like a Thanos, he's not like a dark side. He is he's more of a Scorpion or, a Spider-Man villain that's kind of dealt with. He'll show back up later on, but he's he's not a he's a rogues gallery. He's not an arch enemy. It's the best way to kind of.
Chat giving me shit. 3 versions of the axe holding hand when all he had to do was rest the axe on his shoulder in the original composition. Well, I never said I was going to work smarter, not harder. I like the idea of a giant spine of a creature for the handle of the axe. How do you feel about that, mate?
I think it takes. Again, I'm in two minds of it. On the one hand, it's an awesome idea and it's a really cool visual, but on the other hand, does it really fit with somebody who's a, space kind of scrapper?
Don't you have some sort of hunter character in a later issue?
There is another character. And you know what? Venisa. This is really embarrassing. I've forgotten the name of my own character.
Well, but it's been a while, mate. You've been working on this for a while, mate.
I wrote that issue about 4 years ago. But yeah, there is a character who smuggles animals. and she and their gang, they smuggle animals, and Aquila has to rescue these cute red pandas and
I remember
yeah,
that one.
those kind of things.
You were saying earlier how useful it was to have a collective of writers to bounce your ideas off and sort of,
Yeah.
you know, I found the same thing, and I think that's why I remember, even though it's been years and years since we've sort of made any you've made any sort of progress on those stories.
Mm-hmm.
I know real life you've been busy and stuff, like you got no obligation, but I still remember all that stuff. I think because of how taken with your writing that I was. It's been 3-4 years, and I still remember characters and designs and aspects and stuff. So I think that speaks highly of your work, that I'm able to recall that stuff years later.
I really appreciate that, man. Yeah. And the other thing is that I actually really care about it. It's like the way the world is right now, I think we need kind of lighthearted, just low stakes action.
Yeah.
I think that would, well, in the face of everything that's going on, I think that some low stakes kind of, and that's not to say it's not an important comic, but it is like, it's not to say that the events that happen in the comic isn't important, but it's not a world-ending, it's not a universe-ending threat.
Mm.
And I think comics have kind of gotten away from that. Like, remember when like Spider-Man villains and Batman villains, they don't just want to rob banks anymore. They've always got there's always like some grand kind of esoteric machinations going on, whereby there's always some big conspiracy behind the scenes.
Yeah, it's always going to be. Yeah. It's
and there's nothing to say that there's nothing particularly wrong with that, but I feel that there is a side of it, of comic books, which is a lot of people have kind of ran away from, or almost like fled from. They're kind of embarrassed about it, where it's a simple kind of. And the other thing is that everybody wants everyone wants their comic to be turned into a Marvel movie, and they aren't going to make a Marvel movie about Spider-Man stopping, I don't know, Gibbon and Gibbon and Kangaroo from breaking into the vault of some bank in Midtown. It's not going to be. And if they were to do a story like that, it would turn out that they were agents for.
Yeah.
They were agents for some kind of, they were agents for Green Goblin, who was trying to amass all the wealth in New York so that he could buy cryptocurrency from Wakanda, and put some kind of like crazy.
It's not just motivated by greed anymore. It's always got to be something bigger, and very often personal. Or it's got a political slant. He'd be buying crypto not because he wants crypto for the wealth, but because crypto mining is anti-green and bad and kills the environment and wastes too much energy, and he wants to destroy this and that because he's secretly a Trump analog. Like, they can't help themselves.
Yeah, or it would be like he wants to buy all the crypto so that he can sell it at a low price and crash Peter Parker's crypto stocks. That's like, he wants to go on Saturday Night Live and make a joke about Dogecoin and destroy a load of people's fortunes in the blink
crash
of an
a plane with no survivors. Still not feeling the axe, mate. What it's
Yeah. Maybe we should forego the axe then. What about like a big sword? If in doubt, put a big sword on it. A chain, something about a chain with a hook on it.
Yeah, Dean was saying that before. Chains are a bitch to draw, but I mean that's not your problem. That's your artist's problem. Hashtag just a writer.
I'm not really a Mortal Kombat aficionado, but what is Scorpion? What is that thing that Scorpion uses? Is it like a Spider-Man web thing, or is it like a?
Do you say the kunai, the Japanese dagger, throwing dagger,
on a chain.
On a chain but it's barbed and it hooks into people and pulls them closer. Hence the get over here.
I understand the get over here aspect of it. I just didn't understand the, I do love the aesthetic of Mortal Kombat though. It's like because I'm not really a video gamer, but I do really like that. I like the way this is gonna make me sound like such a kind of entry level, but I love all the ninjas. I love Scorpion, Sub-Zero. When I did play Mortal Kombat, I played with Reptile, and I really liked playing with Reptile. But I like how there's all these like weird, eclectic characters who their sole purpose is to just fight each other.
There's I remember the thing that come up recently about said why isn't Chun-Li in the Mortal Kombat movie? These people have no idea about the and I thought, how do you make that mistake? Because the aesthetic of Mortal Kombat is so different to the aesthetic of Street Fighter. There's no overlap there.
Yeah, it's so unique though. Like you could look at some concept art, and you could say, well, that's Mortal Kombat. You just know by looking at it, and it could just be that half the Mortal Kombat cast are all just recolored scorpions at this point. But there's the other characters as well. Like you can tell, I don't even know their names, but you can tell that they're from Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, I think Mortal Kombat 2 helped really solidify, because the first one was set on Earth, and it's just, they said, like 3 ninjas, Johnny Cage and Sonya, but then the second one come around, you had more stuff to do with Outworld and the Nether Realms and that sort of thing, and it really gave it its own style above and beyond what it had before. And since then, I really like the aesthetic of Mortal Kombat. I want to do something with that sort of brutal. It's like Mad Max martial arts, but also magic cyborgs. I don't really have a story for it, but I really appreciate the aesthetic, and I'd like to see something done with that more than a video game. What's the chat saying?
Give him a halberd.
Continue the chain to the other hand. Halberd.
Halberd is it's basically.
I know. Yeah.
I know. Yeah, but it's basically an axe.
Long axe. Continue the chain to the other hand. Like,
do you like the idea? There's something kind of a bike chain as a weapon. Seems to be a modern
equivalent. Did you see that message from the King with Black Panther in it? So it's like African taken with a bike chain.
I thought you meant the actual character, Black Panther. I didn't. You mean?
I think Chadwick Boseman. Is that his name?
Chadwick Boseman. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like he's comes over from Africa because his sister was killed.
If I saw the name Chadwick Boseman on paper, I would think it is like the biggest dog. If I didn't know who Chadwick
the widest dude,
I would think, oh, that's a geek. That's
the dude who went to a prep school. Chadwick.
Possibly, yeah. I mean, but the name Chad is also synonymous with cool fella. It's the wick element,
We're not going too much into Lobo territory with the chain, though. The chain and the hook.
Yeah, that's it. You don't want it to be kind of
chain should run through both hands and something heavy on the other end.
Napalm's onto Sphinx. You need some more ornamental skulls.
Oh. Certainly. I mean, do you want more skulls? Are you going to go into that sort of like savage hunter head taker type thing, or are you sticking more Like, you know, how down to business is this guy? After he kills someone, he's going to sit there and pull the skull out and polish it and stick it on his armor for the show of it, or is he like, time is money, I've got more shit to sell?
I was thinking maybe like a kind of crafted skull, like it's a skull crafted from some other material. It's not an actual skull.
Yep. On the chest, on the shoulders.
What about on the belt buckle?
Oh, that's easy. That's lemon squeezy, mate.
And then that could double up as the cod piece that you were struggling with.
Like big teeth for the cod piece. It's just Punisher, isn't it? You could do like a laughing skull. Like the cod piece. I don't want to put like spines on everything.
There is a bit of a downside to him having a mouth where that is. There,
that's right. Makes it easy to get to the bathroom.
That's not what I'm talking about.
How are you feeling about the chain? You sold on the chain? Do you want him to have a weapon? Do you want him to just go back to fists? Or
Right now, I'm worried about that skull. Not sure about the chain, mate. Honestly, I do like how you've drawn the fist, though. The hand holding it.
Chain's a bitch to draw.
Yeah.
I've talked to Dean about his one technique that makes chains secretly easy to use the vernacular.
Yeah.
All right, we might just
Oh, there goes his mane.
Are you watching this through the stream, or are you watching through the StreamYard screen, or are you watching it through YouTube?
I'm keep on flicking between it. I should be watching the StreamYards, but the chat is on the other tab, you know.
Yeah, you can get the chat in StreamYards. It should be down. Oh, maybe you can't. I don't know. You should be able to.
I don't think I. Oh, yes, I can. All right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That way, yeah.
I'm new to this. Sorry.
That's all good. It's all good. I just know. I remember one time I was doing a stream with Dean. I was watching it through YouTube. That arm's way too long. And instead of watching it through the StreamYard, and I kept stepping on his cues all the time. Every time he'd go to say something, I'd say something like, normally we've got a good back and forth. Why are we clashing so much? And I realized because I was watching it on YouTube, I was reacting to stuff that was happening seconds after he had seen it. So we just kept bumping into each other verbally.
Yeah.
I can't draw this arm. That's why I always put a hand on a hip. It's a weakness for me. I can't get that angle to sit right. So I always put hands on hips or have characters holding something or whatever, because I just can't seem to make this there. I don't know. Yeah, maybe it should be more like that. So when you skull on the belt buckle, let's just fade this out a bit more. I mean, that's easy enough to do a skull on the belt buckle. Not like a flat ornament skull or an actual like real skull that's sticking out.
Ornamental skull.
Yeah.
Kind of like the Iron Warriors logo. If you know what I'm talking about, from 40k.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Of the silver skulls.
Yeah. Man, I'd like to see some more of those. I don't know, like
lesser known chapters.
Yeah, because you get like a Blood Angels expansion pack or whatever. It's like everybody's seen that. Everyone's done that. Blood Angels have been around for years. I suppose maybe people buy them, and that's why.
Yeah. Well, you'd sell more paints if you marketed other chapters, though, wouldn't you?
The real Chad move, the real Galaxy Brain move, is to design your own chapter, obviously.
Of course, yeah. I knew somebody that did that once, and it looked beautiful. It was white and white and gold and blue, and it looked really really nice color scheme.
That is a good color scheme.
and he got taken with the Imperial Fist, and he just painted over it.
Shit.
In the Imperial Fist colors, yeah. And I
That's
had
a
a
shame.
mate when I was a kid, and when I was actually doing Warhammer. And this lad's father was this expert painter. He was, could have been at shows. He was that good at painting. And his father had painted this like huge Space Marine army for him in this color scheme that was like a like lime green, but not lime, like kind of very pale green, if that kind of, without it being kind of citrusy. And it really looked really good. It was a really good color scheme. And when he became an edgy, kind of started listening to heavy metal and stuff like that, he decided he wanted to be chaos, and he painted over all of his father's models in some crappy corn color scheme, which is, and he wasn't anywhere near as good as a painter as his father was.
That's it's heartbreaking, isn't it?
Something kind of sociopathic about that. Like no sentimentality for you. I need to dip out for a second, but I'll be back in a minute.
Okay. So the shroom was just talking about some big spiky corners. So I thought I'd chuck some spikes on there. Or is it more like I'd like shotgun knuckles? Where like the knuckle dusters have got they've got shotgun rounds in them, and as you punch them, you pull the trigger and discharge like 3 shotgun rounds into the dude that you're punching. That's Mad Max shit right there. I don't know what it would do to your hands. I wonder if we're getting sidetracked over the whole weapon thing. Maybe just stick to that's the truth. That's the truth. I can just ramble. I might just leave the. I think those gauntlets can just go on anyway. I mean, like, why not? I'm still getting big orc vibes. So I don't know if it's going to be too orky. Let's just merge those 2 layers, fade them back a bit. I might just start. Let's get that hair. Where's that hair? Bring the hair down. That's 50. That's 50. We'll merge those 2 layers and we'll start bring it again. I need a second screen. Yeah, well, it really does. It really does look like an orc. Yeah, well,
I'm back.
Yeah, g'day. 6 Scale was just talking about what you said before about to make it look less orky and have the arms all hairy and that.
Yeah. Yeah, not necessarily the entire arm, just like between the armor bits, And yeah, he has a space.
Like Wolverine?
He has a space squatch.
Any tablet? We were doing one of these the other day. We were designing another character, and I just got like this. Like I got this Cintiq, Wacom Cintiq, Intuos, whatever. Mm-hmm. Cost me $1,000. Just don't like it. I got my little $90 bamboo, and aside from the fact that every now and then it just stops working, for like you'd be halfway through a line, and then for just like 1 second it'll stop working. That was really frustrating. But aside from that, I wish I just bought another one of these instead of paying $1,000 for this Intuos. It just sits in a box in the corner of my room.
When you return it or sell it or something?
Oh, I bought it like a year ago.
Then you can sell it.
Yeah, I will. I'll go with it. Yeah. Dean said that he might be interested in it, so if he wants to.
I've got a Wacom little. Mine was about $90 as well. Yeah.
No. What I like about it is that I can use my whole. I've got a big monitor, so I can use the whole monitor as my canvas. Whereas when I was using the Intuos, it's the 13-inch one,
yeah,
and there's all the space you got. So you're constantly moving your pitch around, focusing on little bits and pieces. You're not seeing the big picture. I think that's a detriment. Whereas now, like you guys can see what I can see. I got it's like a 20-something inch monitor, 27-inch monitor or whatever. That's plenty of space. I can see everything that I'm doing. It's not a problem.
Yeah. Yeah, it took a little bit of a while to get used to drawing on a tablet, but I mean, I'm not a great artist at all. Don't pretend to be, but I have a lot of fun drawing on, doing little sketches and whatnot.
I think first and foremost, it has to be fun. And what happens, well, at least what happened with me was, as I wanted it to be better because I wanted it to be more than just fun, I stopped enjoying it, and now I don't draw nearly as much as I used to.
Yeah,
which is a real shame. So if there's people out there who are drawing and they're enjoying it, don't let someone take that away from you. Don't.
Yeah, that's what people say, isn't it? It's like once you start doing something that you love as your job, you start to love it a bit less. I mean, I don't know if that's true because yes, I do, but I've never done a hobby for a job. My hobbies have never turned into a profession yet.
Yeah. I still enjoy writing, even though I consider that my job right now, and editing. So I'm lucky that I can. It's very different though. You're creating, and I'm not. Even though writing's my job, it's not like there's anybody over my shoulder saying, "Hey, you need to have this done by 4 o'clock." So I'm just writing what I want to write. So it might not be the best example.
Dean, what I meant by that was, I'm not saying that like being an artist is just a hobby, but nobody chooses to be an office administrator for fun.
Yeah, you sort of fall into those jobs, don't you?
Like nobody go like in their free time goes and stands at a checkout, like packing bags. That's what I mean. Don't mean anything disparaging by it, but like you can draw for a hobby. You can do art for a hobby. That's
I've been thinking my cousin who did some sort of, I don't know, communications and tourism type thing at university, and it's like, well, I don't know why you pick that. I don't know like what she had in mind, and she ended up being like a park ranger sort of thing. And if you'd asked her at 12 or if you asked her at 20 if that's what she wanted to do, she wouldn't have said that. She wouldn't have said, "Oh yeah, I want to be a park ranger." That was never her goal. She just sort of fell into it. And she's still doing it. She likes it well enough, and she, by all accounts, she's good at it. But yes, I think sometimes people I often think about these jobs that you aren't even really aware. Like my parents tell me about this dude. They ran into a party one time. He designs pegs. His job, he designs pegs. He sits there and sketches up.
What, for clothes?
Clothes pegs.
Blimey.
Like somebody's got to do it, I guess. But I mean, who would have thought? He would have. And nobody would say, "Oh, look, Jimmy, what do you want to be when you grow up? Astronaut, police officer, fireman?" No one designed pegs, bitch. Like nobody.
Yeah.
Thinks that. So we sort of fall into these jobs.
Yeah. I mean, it could, could be the making of you. You don't even. It could be the perfect job for you. You just have no idea. I suppose a lot of it. I suppose it could be quite a gripping job. But when I was, when I was a kid, I said I wanted to be I've always said I wanted to be a writer, and I've been, drawing my own characters in the playground. I used to invent my own games, my own. I used to make my own kind of settings, and me and all my friends would play in, rather than,
using the pre-existing ones.
I mean, like, I took cues from the pre-existing ones, but I was between the ages of 5 and 9, so. But I've always wanted to be a writer. I've always loved writing. English was my favorite class in school. But you take, when you're a kid, you take a few bad criticisms from people, and it really
Oh yeah.
the effect that it has on you can be crippling, and really just discourage you from wanting to pursue it. And so that's what happened with me until I found people like you, and people who read my work and said that I had a knack for it, and that's the
You do,
power of
yeah.
that's the power of positivity.
Yeah, I think people really need to be careful. People are so easy just to discount. The amount of times I've seen like a game, somebody's released a game and it's worked on it for 3, 4, 5 years. They've released this game on Steam, whatever, and somebody just turns out and goes, "No, this game's shit. Don't even pay attention to it. Don't buy it." It's like that's 5 years of this dude's life,
Yeah.
and you didn't even give it, the time of day. That's brutal.
Are you talking about that? Was it in America? They've got that show, The Shark Tank.
Yeah, yeah.
And I remember I saw this clip once of this guy, and it broke my heart. Is this guy, and he'd invented this game on his table called Bullet Ball.
Yes, Bullet Ball. I've seen that done. Tell him about it. Yeah.
And like before he's even introduced it, they poo-poo it, straight out the bat. And then he says, I refinanced my house so that I could do this pitch. And they were just so callous and
and he said, I've lost my wife, I've lost my house, I've lost this. I said, what have you got? And he goes, I've got Bullet Ball. It's like, you poor bugger. I heard that he ended up getting it made eventually.
I hope he did. I really hope he did. I mean, we didn't even get to see what the premise was.
No.
And they poo-pooed it. But, you get things like pickleball. Have you seen that pickleball?
No.
Pickleball is a sport that's become really popular with
Zillennials?
No.
Boomers?
Yeah, I'd say. And it was it's called pickleball because this woman and her husband, I think they had don't quote me on this. It was their dog's play toy, and they started batting it to each other with badminton rackets. And it turned into this international sport phenomenon. And and it's kind of tailored for people who aren't quite as athletic and mobile,
So boomers, yeah. I see what you're telling me about.
I think it's played in doubles as well. If I'm not, I think it's part of the rules is that it has to be played in doubles. But
so I extra lazy.
But I am under the age of what's the boomer cut off these days? 35. So
it's eternally 35. It'll be your turn soon one day, my friend.
Possibly. But in fair play, when I was at university, I don't know if this is still a thing. Ultimate frisbee. You ever hear of ultimate frisbee?
Yeah, I do.
So that can be a thing. Remember late night I was flicking through the channels, and I came upon the sports channels, and I thought, oh well, football. There might be a football replay or something on,
Mm-hmm.
And I was watching the Asian World Cup of drone racing, quadcopter racing. It's what this is something that people really enjoy, and why not?
Yeah, there's a whole all this sort of stuff's got a subculture. I think about that with Warhammer specifically, but the tabletop gaming community. There's verbal shorthands and stuff that you can say that people will know if they're a part of it, and if they're not, they don't. It's like cars, there's elements of the whole car, vintage car or whatever, or car collectors, or they'll say something and people know what the little brand names. If somebody says Vallejo paints, people know what Vallejo paints are if they're in the tabletop gaming, but other people, you don't necessarily know what that brand is. And there's just there's meta language to all this stuff that I find really interesting that the people who are into it are aware of, and the people who aren't have no idea. And you could be, I remember this interview with Alex Ross one time with Wizard Magazine, and they're in a restaurant, and they said that they thought they heard someone say Alex Ross, so maybe somebody recognized him. And this is back when he wasn't really recognizable. Nobody really knew what he looked like. And they said, probably wasn't somebody talking about me. It's probably just something else, and we thought it sounded like that. And he said, that's a bit of a trip, that he's like the superstar in the comic book community, but in real life, people don't know who he is and don't care. And you can be world famous in one area and be completely obscure in another. So when you talk about hairy arms, are you talking like hair bristling out of the gaps like this, or just hairy like Wolverine hairy?
Like hairy, like a Bigfoot hairy. It's like his arms are hairy.
Yeah.
Like shaggy,
How are you feeling about this mask? Is that all right, or is it?
Yeah, it's good. Yeah.
Yep.
It gets the bear look down.
Yeah.
I am a bit worried that the artist might make it a bit too cutesy,
Yeah, I tried to keep it really simple. I mean, it's just a triangle with a line. Like if let me just do this real quick. If I go over that, because I can always undo it, you lose that whole bear aesthetic. Now it looks like, I don't know, noseless orc.
What if you were to draw that triangle but a bit larger, and you make the triangle the central piece of the nose? That inverted, like, not even with the filler, just like with the kind of outline of the triangle.
Righto, yeah. Get you. We shouldn't do it like that.
And then it invokes the image without it being too on the nose.
No. No weapons, just claws.
So,
we could do. What about? And again, it might be much for the artist, but that's his job. Hashtag just an artist. So if you got,
giving him a weapon kind of takes away almost of how strong he is.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you're that like, what did I say? Something recently where like a character picked up a car or a what do you call it, where you put the coins in and you're allowed to park there? Parking meter. We don't really have, like an old school parking meter, and they turn around and like hit Superman or Captain Marvel or something with a parking meter. I'm like, that's like, instead of me wanting to punch someone with my hands, I go and I hit them with a pillow, or I throw tissue paper at them. Like it doesn't make me strong. If Arnold Schwarzenegger hitting me with a pillow would hurt less than Arnold Schwarzenegger punching me in the face. So why would he bother with a pillow? There's a scale there.
I suppose the force at which you can swing a parking meter, it's more so the force rather than the actual thing itself, the object itself.
What about something like this, where the claws?
It's a bit too sleek.
Yeah. Sort of almost like sit above. If you wanted to go real space, you could make like hologram claws that sit above.
Yeah, it's
too high tech for this guy.
Yeah, no, he is a Bigfoot. He should just have claws on his hands.
Yeah, like the hologram claw idea.
The hologram claw is something I'm going to steal for something else.
Do it. Well, like all that shit's just out there in the ether until somebody else. Like if you got a character, but all that shit's out there in the ether until somebody makes something happen with it. Yeah.
From the bottom of the mask up to the front, up to the top is what I'm thinking. We've got owls in chat. Owl check. We got how many owls is that?
How many 6 eyes are on the owls? It should be 24 of them. There you go.
What owls?
Here you go.
Oh. Should be 12 owls in chat then.
I was on his stream the other day. It's a good time. We didn't really set a time limit on it. Most streams go for an hour. We end up being like 2.5 hours or something.
Yeah.
Just talking about, and I was there to sort of half to shill my book, half to talk about the topic at hand, but I didn't even end up talking about my book that much because we just had a good old time talking about real life and stuff. So with the nose, do you mean like?
Yeah, like a triangle kind of implies a triangle without it being a triangle, without it being a nose.
So that doesn't have any filler. So if you look at that from the side, that would just be 1, 2, 3, 4 plates.
Yeah, kind of.
It almost looks more like a line now that it's further down.
I mean, he's not exactly, he's not a bear, you know. He could just have bare hands.
So it makes it all geometric shapes, and which should be easy for the artist to draw,
Mm-hmm.
and can be abstracted, so that it's not as clearly. Like, come on here.
How many people have we got watching? I'm self-conscious. 7.
Yeah, they'll come and go. There's stuff going on. So if
It's Friday.
Phil's,
It's Friday night, Saturday morning.
too.
You know, I don't expect. I don't expect. You know, Super Bowl audience. It's fine. Not yet.
The people who turn up are the people you can rely to turn up to. They're good people. Does that look all right from a distance? Is that looking all right for you?
Yeah, it looks fine. Looks great. What's with the blank eyes though? I'm not really sure on that.
Hey.
Looks like he's turning Super Saiyan.
Yeah. You see that? I probably shouldn't talk about that. No, never mind. Moving on.
Are we talking about a prominent theorist of unacceptable ideas making a video of himself turning Super Saiyan?
no, that was funny though.
Yeah.
So that's, I mean, just eyes really, I guess. Little beady, a little bit of reflection in there so they don't look flat. That's the biggest cheat of all. You just leave a little bit of white in there.
Just put a dot. Just put a white dot. That's what I do. Yeah. Okay.
Bring it up a little. I mean, I'm not going for a fully rendered thing here.
Could you make him look angrier with the eyebrows?
I suppose we could.
He needs to be, he needs to look like he's going to rip your face off, you know.
In that case, maybe the eyes should be bigger.
Yeah. More feral.
Yeah.
Not Will Ferrell.
No, nobody wants that.
You know, I'll probably lose friends for this.
Go on.
I cannot stand Will Ferrell.
Oh, okay. That's not the most controversial.
I cannot watch a single thing with him in.
I think you can have a controversial opinion, like you liked Wonder Woman 1984 and Black Widow. That'd be controversial. Somebody to say that would be who would dare to utter such obscenities?
I don't know. You'd have to be a right weirdo.
You have to be Australian to tell you.
No, like for a lot of people, like Will Ferrell is like, and it's a very certain set of like late Gen X, early millennial, I would say. Whereas if you say anything bad about Will Ferrell, like, you know, I just can't stand him. I just cannot stand him. And that put me at odds with quite a few people in my real life. Because I didn't want to go see the movies with him in.
Yeah.
But as far as I can tell, he's not actually funny. He just yells.
Yeah.
And pulls funny faces. You know.
So it's like the worst part's Jim Carrey with none of the redeeming qualities.
Yeah.
I feel that way about Seth Rogen. I really don't.
Yeah, no, Seth Rogen. That's the meme, isn't it? Dude, weed Lamau.
Yeah, I just don't get him. He just nothing for me.
The one I get is the US Office. I cannot stand the US Office, and for a lot of people, it's like they love it. You know, it's like they're almost like an identity.
Yes,
and I've often said, and considering I live in America, I think I've got kind of license to say this. I'd say that the difference between the US office and the British office is almost like a perfect microcosm of the differences between British and American humor.
That's interesting.
Because like you look at the British office, and it's a pastiche of working life, to the point where it's actually addressing things like workplace bullying and sexual harassment in the workplace from a kind of subtle, you're laughing at it, but then you reflect on it and think, oh shit,
like I've lived that, or I've seen that.
I've lived that, and I've done that to people, and that's not looking at how Martin Freeman feels in that moment makes me realize that I've done bad things to my coworkers, or that kind of thing. Whereas when you look at the American Office, and it's slapstick, and it's like obvious humor, and there's barely any kind of subtlety to it. And
I've heard similar things where people say that
people yelling,
loud noises. Yeah. I've heard people say the British one makes them feel like they can't watch it because it makes them feel uncomfortable. Like they can't cope with I need some white here. Yeah, they can't cope with how it makes them feel because it is too real, and it does have that. And the big part of that is Ricky Gervais. He does that really uncomfortable sort of humor where you're confronted. Even in his stand-up, he does really confrontational sort of stuff. There's a bit in The Office which loads of people probably feel the same way. Is the bit where he gets spoilers, where he gets fired, and he starts pleading for his job, and you just see you see the desperation, and it is this just a terrible scene that you have to kind of sit through, and it's almost like the actors that they've got to play his bosses, they almost, because it's all improvised as far as I know, or it's not improvised, but it's like loosely kind of, it does feel like they're actual managers, Yeah.
And some of the dialogue comes across as how actually white collar people talk.
Reminds me of the dude that does that IKEA bit off TikTok where he says, "You want to speak to the manager? The manager doesn't know anything. Haven't you worked anywhere before?" It's true. The manager never knows what's going on.
That move is not so much that your concern is valid. It's to dunk on the wagey. That it's to make the wagey shit themselves.
And the best is when that doesn't work, and they go, "Okay, then," or when they say, "I am the manager," all those sort of bits. Yeah. How do you liking this at the moment?
Still doesn't look angry enough, mate. What about eyebrows?
Well, he's got these big eye ridges.
Yeah.
The tricky thing, because I'm rendering, there's a thing. So when your artist is drawing it in pen and ink, it's just straight up black and white. Yeah. He's going to be able to draw big eyebrows.
The comic's going to be in black and white too, because it's. Yeah. I'm aiming for that retro kind of Buck Rogers, Flash Gordon kind of aesthetic. Not necessarily with the characters, but with the setting, and I think it would really get across. It would really come across well. It would come across better in black and white, I think.
Is that any help?
I don't know what it is. It possibly that the pupils? I don't know what it is, mate. It just doesn't look angry. He just doesn't look angry enough.
He looks more upset. He's I want to speak to your manager.
Looks like he's concerned, mildly concerned, rather than.
Let's make the eyes smaller, thinner.
Immediately, I see a difference. Yeah. There's what were we talking about a second ago? Talking about
The Office.
Yeah.
Speak to the manager.
So I used to work in a stationery store, and they were closing down. The store I was working in were closing down, and we were doing a closing down sale, and there was a big sign up saying no refunds, we're closing down. And this guy comes in and he buys a previous year's diary. So I think it was 2000 and I think it was 2012, and we were going into 2013. And he went in and he bought a 2012 diary in December 2012. And he comes back and I want my money back. I'm not paying £20 on a I'm not paying £20 on a diary for the previous year.
So well, you kind of already have.
It's like, and I say to them, I'm sorry, but we're closing down. We can't do refunds. Like the computer system just cannot do refunds anymore.
Yeah.
We can't do so I'm really sorry. There's nothing I can do. And, he starts like kicking off. And I'm like, at that point, I'm just like some 19-year-old. I'm like, I don't know what to do. And he starts kicking off. And this guy I was working with, he comes over and he says, "No, we're not giving you a refund. Get out the store." And this guy says to him, "What's your name? I'm going to call head office." And he says, I can't remember his name. I think it was like Pete or something. He says, "All right, yeah, my name's Pete. I've already lost my job. So, so go on, go tell them. I told them to fuck off."
Exactly right. What else is there? You're taking
What
me
else?
in the job.
And I always remembered that. I thought that was really like an alpha kind of move.
I think by slimming down his eyes, it made him look more like he definitely looks angrier to me, but he also looks more intelligent,
Wise.
Like more, like he's like, yeah, I'm scheming, I'm planning, sort of an animal cunning that I think suits the character. Like in D&D, they separate wisdom and intelligence as two different statistics.
Yeah.
The idea being that Einstein was the example they give. Einstein was very, very intelligent, but maybe not necessarily so wise because he didn't. Stories go, the urban legends go that he didn't cope with reality so well. Whereas you might have somebody who's grown up on the street, can't read or write, but they're streetwise, and that's wisdom as opposed to actual intelligence.
Yeah.
So he looks like he's got some animal cunning happening there.
There is wisdom. Yeah, there's, there are.
To be a crime boss, you've got to be smart to some degree. I remember you ever seen The Wire, and the kid can't do the math, and then the other kid says, "All right, we'll look at it like this." He says, "You got 4 baggies of this much drug for this much money, and you're selling it at this price, and you've got to re-up at this price." And the kid gets the answer straight away because it's put in a context he understands. It puts in that street urban context that he knows, because that's the life these kids live. They go to school on the weekdays and sling drugs on the corner on the weekend.
Yeah, I've never watched The Wire.
It's worth checking out. I don't think it's like the be all and end all that some people say. I prefer The Shield still, but The Shield's more like
never seen that either.
It's more like an action. It's not like it's if The Wire is serious socio-political commentary in a police show, then The Shield is an action movie with a message in a police show.
Yeah,
but I prefer The Shield out of the two. Is that the right sort of hair? Are you thinking for his arms, like furry?
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
Shaggy,
I rent
Shaggy,
Yeah, I render stuff because I'm not good enough at black and white straight up line drawing. Like if you're really good at just line drawing, you can draw anything, and you can put the lines where it needs to go to show the detail, the weight, the shape, where the light hits, all that. I'm not good enough to do that, so I render things to hide. Like trying to draw this fur would be difficult, but if you just render it, if you just basically paint it in, it looks enough like what it's supposed to be that people believe it, and you can move on to the next thing. But a really good artist will be able to pick up every little hair and tuft, and it won't be. What about like this? Like it's got like the fur coming out of all the gaps in his armor.
Well, considering I've never had fur, I could imagine that might be a bit uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And it might be a pain in the ass to kind of have to do every time.
Could be. There's something else to consider. You've got to be kind to your artist. Don't give him a design that's too over the top.
I mean, realistically, yeah, stuff like that would happen, but like, why would you buy something like that? Well, why would you buy something that makes you uncomfortable? Hello?
Yeah. Just have
I just didn't want dead air. I was like, thought there'd been a crisis.
That doesn't happen often. That's true.
I saw a study that said like every 7 minutes in a conversation there is a silence. Yeah. On average, there is a pause in the conversation around the 7 minute mark. Like, that kind of lines up with my experience, at least.
Mm-hmm. definitely a natural ebb and flow that happens, and I think especially if you're not dealing with someone who is on board with your general way of thinking, like there's a point where you just can't convince someone. You've talked it through, you've given your points of view, they don't want to hear it anymore. You realize they're stuck in their way, and you're just like, oh well, and that's where agree to disagree comes from. You're like, okay, then, well, I mean, you don't want to know then, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I think the agree to disagree thing, though, I think, honestly, that's possibly one of the most harmful things for the society.
Mm-hmm.
Because
I mean, it's a cop-out. It's just there to avoid a fight.
Yeah, but I also think it's like, there have been people who have said and done things which are objectively wrong, or have been like harmful to, ideas that have been damaging, and nobody's called them, like people have called them out on it, and then they say, well, let's just agree to disagree.
Yep.
And what you've just let them off the hook,
Yep. And that's where you get this mentality of this whole everything is permissible sort of mentality. It's like, oh, if what I'm doing isn't hurting you, it shouldn't be a problem for you. It's like, yeah, but when you're talking about objective truths.
We've got Ali Sanguis in the chat. Hello, Ali.
Hey, Ali.
Ali Sanguis, blood.
Oh, you got the CG Royal Rumble coming up, Ali. That's cool. When's that? That's in the next day or two, isn't it? It's this weekend.
Wait. What is this?
Yeah.
Why haven't I heard of it?
You haven't heard of it because I'm a complete narcissist and I wasn't involved. So
the Royal Rumble is my favorite pay-per-view of the year.
It's the best. It's really, if they only have one a year, that's the one that you get. The Rumble is so much fun. So I'm doing like a wetsuit, like his space suit, like he's cut off space for the arm there. I don't know. So some mad lad has gone ahead and made 30 CG creators. 6 a.m. Comics is the dude. He's made 30 CG creators in like WWE 2K, I don't know, 19 or 20, I assume.
Okay.
And he's gonna be doing a Royal Rumble this weekend, and then he also did made a whole bunch of tomorrow. She says a whole bunch of the ladies. So there's probably eight CG ladies that he's made and added to. I don't know if he's been part of the Rumble. I don't know if it's a
Battle Royale or something pre-show.
Yeah. So that's really cool. So
I know a guy. I know a channel where a guy has made is a complete fantasy wrestling federation. All the wrestlers on the thing are all guys that he's made himself with a creator wrestler kind of. When you like one of those things where like click on this site, that's your birthplace, click on that site, that's your name, click on that.
Oh, righto, yeah.
And he's done that, and he's made an entire roster of wrestlers just with from randomizing stuff.
Yeah.
And he puts them on computer mode and just he commentates on them.
Yeah, well, they got a couple of people from the CG community doing commentary on it. I'd love to have been asked for that. I think that's something I could do. I've been watching wrestling my whole life, and everybody knows I can talk. I know the moves. I'd be able to actually comment on what's happening. I think my downfall would be I don't actually know who all the people creators are. Yeah, because I don't go on a lot of the big name streams. I don't. How do I say it? I don't have a lot of time to go on streams. If I'm going to go on streams, I want to go and hang out with my friends and people that I like. That's why we're 2 hours into this stream, but I won't go sit on a EVS stream for 2 hours because I don't have 2 hours for those guys. Nothing against them. It's just if I'm going to spend time doing, being online.
The best way to put it would be they're not your friends yet. Like it's not that you don't. It's not like you wouldn't want to be friends with them. It's just that like they, you're not right now, and you feel uncomfortable. You'd be feeling comfortable in a situation where you're talking to people that you don't exactly know. It's like a social anxiety kind of thing. Not social anxiety in that sense. I mean, like, it's just human nature to want to talk to people that you already know over people that.
Yeah, well, I don't have a lot of real life friends, so hanging out with you guys on here is one of the few sort of parallels I have to that. Also, on those big streams, you're just another name. Like I feel like you get lost, whereas here you can be heard, here you can be part of something. Like, you know, the people in the chat have helped influence some of the elements of this picture and this design, and given us stuff to think about. That's what I wanted to do. I want to have interaction from the chat, people saying, hey, have you considered this? Have you considered that? React, you know, if you do something and somebody goes, no, I don't like that, the whole chat goes, no, I don't like that. You're like, okay, well, I've got to rethink that. Maybe that's not the best
thing. And, you know, that's the best kind of way, because you've got to kind of think about it. It's a Pareto principle, isn't it? Like, the people who are in your chat are going to be the people that are going to buy your books.
Yeah.
And you want to make they want to see all these characters and stuff. And you know, you got to listen to your audience, basically. If what will sell those toys, you know. And when I say that, I don't mean it in a sort of like do it for the money kind of way. You just got to think, like, you know, what would people like, you know?
I think it's fair to say there are design choices that are universally, objectively good and bad. And that's maybe that's what you're talking about. Like, there's some designs, it's like that would sell toys, that would sell books, that looks cool. You know, I didn't spend a month working on the Sinners design with Dean, because design doesn't matter. Design totally matters. If it didn't matter, we would have just done any old thing, and then it wouldn't sell. Like, how many times have I seen a book and seen the design of the character and thought, that's cool, I'm going to back that book just off the design of the character. Like the art's quality art, but yeah, the design is what gets me. There's this one getting around at the moment. I don't know when it's going to go live, and it's like some sort of I don't know, like Middle Eastern martial arts chick with these twin curved knives. The art's fantastic. The design is on point. I love the design. I'll just tweet. I'll just say, brother, I'm backing this. Whatever it is, I'm backing it. Let me know when it goes live, because I want whatever this thing is. That's what a good design will do for you.
Yeah, you know, I think that with some of these you know, these like mainstream superheroes, you know, when I say mainstream, I mean like they belong to the big two.
Yeah,
like look at a character like White Tiger. Her costume is really cool. I love her costume. I wish that was something I designed. And it's basically just a white or full body spandex suit, but it looks cool. It looks really good. And from seeing that costume, I looked into the history of the character. I started reading some of the books. I started checking out places where she's appeared, you know, and all that. You know, I researched the character. I got really into it, and I started from that, I started writing my own kind of like vaguely based off that character. You know,
I mean, that's how most of my stories start. I look at a character that exists. The one I talk about the most is Stingray from Marvel. Nobody's doing anything with Stingray. He turns up in the back of in the background of panels in Civil War 10 years ago, and nobody's done anything with him since. I love the idea of this like marine biologist, superhero scientist dude. So I've wrote what's essentially a 6-issue Stingray story, and I'm just going to change the name of the character and the costume and make it mine. It's mine now. It's mine. If they're not going to do a Stingray story, I'll do better than that. I'll make my own character, and that'll
vaguely inspired.
Yeah.
Inspired by, not ripped off. You've got you're going to make that distinction.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like like Black Panther. There's so much good stuff there with the whole African thing. It ties into like the Phantom with his African mythology and stuff. But because they've gone full Wakanda and everything, I feel like some of the cooler mystical elements of Black Panther have been lost. And now because he's become so politically charged, you couldn't do anything with him anymore. But I still like the idea of a King of Africa superhero type guy. So there's elements of Black Panther that I want to incorporate into my own character, because I just so often feel like these characters are being misused, mishandled.
Well, lost cities in Africa were not invented by Stan Lee.
In
Tarzan, there's the lost city of Opar, I think it's called.
Yeah, I remember Warren Ellis referencing that in Planetary with his Tarzan analog. Do you want capsules and hard packs on his belt, or do you want like leather pouches?
Bit of both.
Yeah. Okay. There you go.
Maybe a grenade or two.
Yeah.
Or 6. You ever see that Stan Lee with Rob Liefeld? It's like learn to draw the Marvel Way TV show or something.
I've seen screenshots of it. I've never actually seen.
Like in the middle of the 90s, and it like Liefeld is. I have a lot of respect for Rob Liefeld. Don't get me wrong, but I just remember this, and it's always stuck with me. Liefeld's drawing this character, and I think he calls him Cross. I think the character is called Cross. I think he just makes it up for the sake of the program. And he's like, okay, I'm going to put this here. I'm going to put this here, that here, you know. And then he says, I'm going to put. He draws like a, you know, like a. What's one of those things called? Like a bandolier.
Yep.
It's like, okay, maybe a belt or 6. The guy's just got like
classic Rob.
6 bandoliers on. Makes no sense whatsoever. But I always loved it. Is that a canteen you're drawing there?
Could be. It could be a
canteen.
futuristic grenade. Could be
anything.
Yeah. Anything really. That's a great thing about the old sci-fi thing. I often say about Rob Liefeld, people give him shit, but I'm like, if I could draw as good as Rob Liefeld, you'd be reading my 10th book by now, not waiting for me to deliver the first. Like if I could draw as good as him, as consistently, like every month, if I could put out a book every month at his level, I'd be making comics.
Think of all the characters that he's made that have become mainstays.
Yep. And even though a lot of that's not necessarily to do with him, it sort of happened after the fact. To deny his part in it, I think is a bit churlish. I think people just want to dunk on him because it was popular and then it became unpopular, and then because it's become unpopular, people made it popular again. You know, a lot of people come to Rob Liefeld's defense over the last sort of decade or so, and people are like, oh no, Rob Liefeld was always shit, so they go back to that mainstay.
Yeah, it's comics. I think your boy Zach is a big he's a big advocate for Rob Liefeld.
When somebody like that's pro somebody, I think it gives other people permission to feel like they can talk about it again. They don't have to, like, their opinion. It validates their opinion. It feels so weird. It's like we were talking about before. These people on the internet, they're into all sorts of weird shit, and by being on the internet and being exposed to other people who have the same, lack of a better word, interest. Thank you. Interest as them. They feel like they can talk about it. It's like no, don't. Just keep that to yourself. We don't need to hear that.
Yeah. You know, and like, you know, I keep saying, you know, I've been talking about like Power Rangers and stuff recently, and like I was watching Power Rangers solely for the research, and I just kind of fell in love with it. I fell in love with the idea of it. You know, I fell in love with a lot of the concepts of it, and like people I was talking to were like, yeah, but it's a kids thing. It's a kids show. It's it's for babies. And there was 2 things were going on in my head. Is like, you haven't watched it since you were a baby. So how can you like, you know, you haven't, you know, when they make these kid shows, they are actively trying to keep the parents engaged.
Yeah,
they have to keep the parents engaged. That's why when they do Sesame Street, they get celebrities to do parts on Sesame Street.
Yeah.
So that because the kids don't know who Katy Perry is, but your dad, you know, your dad will pay attention. You know, back in at least 15 years ago, whenever it was, when she was before Russell Brand had his way with her.
That's a real thing, isn't it? Like, I don't know if people realize you can do damage to your, like.
Yeah, by letting Russell Brand have you. Yeah, like really ruined Katy Perry's.
Yeah.
In my opinion, at least.
Her stock.
Yeah. But yeah, no, like you need your mum and dad need to watch it. My mum fancied the pants off Tommy in the Power Rangers. She fancied the pants off him.
Yeah, and
I'm very sure that is the biggest driver in her letting me watch Power Rangers every morning.
Yeah, because if the parents aren't into it in some way, especially back in the day before everybody had a device right in front of them where they could have access to whatever they want 24/7. If the kids are watching it and you're bored, you're going to turn over. I remember being a kid and dad saying, "No, I'm watching the news." It's always time for the news. You always watch the news, and whatever was on, you didn't get to watch. So if you've got something there that, my dad's not that sort of sort. He's very straight-laced. But if you've got a dad there that's like, I'm going to watch the news, and then Katy Perry bounces into Sesame Street, he's like, oh, maybe we can watch the Big Bird for a minute. It's all good. It's all good.
Nice verb. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
That's the only thing I know from is that GIF where she's like Saturday Night Live or something.
Ridiculous. She's wearing. To be fair, it was ridiculous for a kid show. It was completely ridiculous. Excessively.
I know she's a singer, but I couldn't tell you any of her songs or anything. Like, it's not.
You'd know them if you heard them, I would say.
Yeah.
I don't want to sing them.
Go on.
And I don't want to kind of invoke,
Oh, that's right. We get struck or something for.
No, I mean, speak of the devil and he will appear. I don't want that song to start showing up everywhere. But there's all kinds of crazy conspiracy theories about her being like a full-blown Satanist and everything.
Yeah, I've been down some of those rabbit holes. At this point, I'm open just about anything. Somebody had a tweet recently, and it's like, "What? See you, hockey." I don't know if you did that earlier or just was it just like 10 minutes ago. I haven't checked the chat for a while. It said, "Which of these actors would you get rid of?" Johnny and them in all their movies: Johnny Depp, Tom Hanks, Will Smith, or Denzel, or someone else. There's 4 of them, and a whole bunch of people.
It was DiCaprio
there you go. You saw it. Yeah. And a lot of people said Tom Hanks, and I'm like, I'd get rid of Hanks just because of if you're looking at the screen,
what you've heard,
just because of Hanks. If you know what Hanks is, if you've been down the Hanks rabbit hole.
I've not been down the Hanks rabbit hole.
If any conspiracy theory type thing about Hollywood and all that sort of stuff, the stuff they get up to is eminently believable once you start looking into all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, somebody says, saying about Katy Perry, Satanist, whatever, I'd believe it.
She was a Christian rock singer before she was a pop star. Did you know that?
I didn't know.
Yeah, she was a Christian rock singer, and her father was a some kind of Protestant pastor. Holy. No, I'm not going to say holy man, but religiously involved.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where all this conspiracy theories come from. It's like she literally sold her soul to become famous, and that's why she doesn't, because she's not a Christian rock singer anymore.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, if you look into the sort of the patterns of these people and what they've got to give up to get famous, and how often that some awful tragedy befalls a loved one or a family member or something right before these people get their big break. If you start looking into that and the patterns that you see, you have to at least concede. You're like, that's either the biggest coincidence or there's something else happening here and no one's talking about it.
So are you saying that Keanu Reeves is up to the worst kind of behavior in Hollywood simply because of how many tragedies befall him all the time?
As opposed to the worst behavior, more just that people's success, part of the price of the success, as the story goes, is requiring a sacrifice of giving up of somebody that matters to them to prove that the success matters more to them. Keanu sort of counteracts the whole thing by giving heaps to charity, buying motorbikes for his entire crew, living in a regular apartment and seeming like a normal dude. So I think that deflects from, it's pretty hard to criticize the way he conducts himself. And he's beloved. So talking about him negatively can be like a death sentence sort of thing. But when you look into these people and who gets successful and what happens right around the time they get successful, like that's a pretty incredible coincidence that they all just happen to lose loved ones and it's sort of, it's not like their loved ones are killed by muggers or something. It's always like a car crash or something that's really easy to fake.
Yeah. So
if anyone's into that, sort of like wants to know more, like check out this website, Crazy Days and Nights, and just do a bit of a deep dive on that and see some of the stories you hear. CDAN, Crazy Days and Nights, and it's like blind items about Hollywood, and some of it's just like which actor that's famous for being a Prince of Bel-Air is divorcing from his wife. It's like, that's not clever. I know everybody knows what you're talking about, but if you go a bit deeper, there's some pretty heinous stuff that goes on. That like casting couch type stuff and beyond that really does go into the realm of like demonic, satanic sort of practices that's hinted at, and it's all below the surface type stuff. It's pretty insidious and so hard to read.
So Paul McCartney, live or dead?
I don't know. Did he die?
No, there's that conspiracy theory from like a long time ago that he allegedly died in a car crash, and he was swapped out.
Oh, that sounds familiar. Yeah, yeah.
Like I'm not really familiar on the entire kind of what do you call it, mythos. But from what I remember, it was something like Paul McCartney had a car crash, and the conspiracy theory is that he was murdered and replaced with a doppelganger who was more compliant because Paul wanted to break up the Beatles and go his own way. That's from what I understand. Or he was going to come out with, secrets or something. It could be one of the, could be one or the other. But
and when you say it like that, it sounds crazy, and that's why, and they rely on that. So you really got to look into it if you care.
Well, there's all kinds of clues as well. The Beatles left all kinds of clues in the artwork and I mean, I'm not saying I endorse this theory from the position of one of the people that believe this. The Beatles left all kinds of clues in their songs and on the album covers. So Abbey Road, that famous Abbey Road album cover where they're crossing the street, they are meant to represent the different stages of death, of life rather. Or no, sorry, that's not right. They're meant to represent a funeral. So I'm going to pull it up just for my own reference. I'm not going to put it on the screen or anything. Just so I know what order they're walking across the street in, basically. But so George Harrison is wearing like double denim, and he's got his long hair and a beard, so he's meant to be a gravedigger. And Paul McCartney is barefoot and he's smoking, and he's in a suit, and he's meant to be dead. He's meant to be a corpse. Ringo's in a dark black suit, and he's meant to be he's got a white collar. He's not wearing like a priest kind of frock, but you know what I'm getting at. He's got a white, so it's meant to allude to the priest. And John Lennon is wearing all white, top to bottom, white shoes, white pants, white blazer. And John's meant to be a ghost or God or something, like an angel, And there's also in one of the songs, I can't remember which one it is, but at the end of the song, John says, "I buried Paul."
Yeah,
very kind of, and that was that the beat, because the Beatles were known for being very playful and kind of sarcastic, and was that the Beatles leaning into it, cheeky,
Yeah. And there's a lot of that reverse masking. If you guys have heard of the reverse masking, where stuff's said in reverse and then
they make it a joke, and then it's but they're actually hiding in plain sight almost.
Yeah. So if you play a lot of this stuff backwards, you hear it. If you listen to it, there's stuff in there that's quite clearly phrases being said in reverse, and quite a few artists did it. And some of the stuff they're saying is quite scary to hear. And because it's said in reverse, it's also got this very inhuman sound to it, which lends credence to the whole thing.
Not sure if I. That's the subliminal messaging in like the reverse thing. Not sure I buy into that one, because how do you know what something sounds like backwards until you've?
I would say they said it and then put it in reverse and then mimic those sounds and put it.
Yeah, actually, come to think of it. You're smarter than me.
If you listen to a few examples, this is one of the things that got me really thinking about it. You listen to a few examples, it's really quite clear some of the stuff that it sounds like they're saying. It's like, well, that's not even. It's not even vague. Like you listen to it and you're like, that's very clearly this guy hailing Satan in reverse in his song. When you listen to it,
you're saying like Led Zeppelin.
Yeah. And other dudes as well. I think is it Kanye? It was one I heard from Kanye. It was really quite clearly in reverse. You reverse the bit and you listen to it, and it's like, he's saying what he's saying. Because it's not accidental. Like, you got to do that deliberately. So there's a real rabbit hole, and it's a bit like the moon landing and stuff. Like, there's been so much debate, or 9/11. There's so much anecdotal type stuff about it that you got to go, I don't know, man. Like maybe there's some credence to what they're saying, but you can't just full on say we were never on the moon. It's hard to, because if you take it's like flat earthers. It's hard to take that stance. Once you take that stance, you're considered to be a moon landing denier, or a flat earther, or whatever. But I'm just saying, like, there's enough stuff there that made me think, hold on. There's enough pictures of celebrities before and after where their body features and tattoos and stuff are different and don't line up, that make you go, well, I don't have a good
Miley
explanation.
Cyrus is one of them as well.
Yeah,
Miley
that's one
Cyrus,
of them.
She was allegedly replaced with a doppelganger.
Mm-hmm. And if you,
where did we get these doppelgangers from? Well,
it's either because you've seen LA Confidential, where Kim Basinger
I haven't.
Okay, so in that, she's a hooker who looks like a famous movie star. I can't.
She plays rugby, does she?
What?
She plays rugby.
Not that sort of hooker.
Okay.
And she looks like a movie star, and this guy, what he does is he gets women that have a passing resemblance to famous starlets, and then does plastic surgery done on them so they look more and more like that person, and then you hire them out as, you can't bang Marilyn Monroe, but you can bang this hooker that looks just like her.
Yeah.
So they take people that exist that already have, and there's uncanny resemblances. Well, this person looks like that person. But then there's also, if you see the Hitman movie with Timothy Oliphant, there's what the hell are you doing with your time? Anyway, there's this Russian president.
You've never seen Star Wars.
I got nowhere to go with that. You got me. I can't. I have no comeback for that. And what they do is the
comeback to that is, yes, I have. I read Dune.
Oh,
that's the comeback.
Yeah, I read the first Dune.
I read the first one. When I say read, I listened to somebody else read it.
Oh, it's as good as. I don't differentiate. It's the same thing. I
say audio read. It's a word I've invented. Audio read. I audio read Dune.
Yeah. I mean, if you heard it, if you know everything that happened in it, there's no difference there. Sam's here. G'day, Sam. Yeah, Avril Lavigne. I heard Avril Lavigne's another one like that.
Wait, I haven't heard the Avril Lavigne one. Is it like a tattoo isn't in the right place or something?
It might be. Just another one like her attitude change, and because with a lot of these people, it's because they're going to speak up about the sort of stuff that goes on in Hollywood and in the movie industry, and it's too visible to just get rid of them.
What drives me crazy though is when they say, "I'm gonna reveal this," and then like that one. I don't know if this stream will probably get taken down, flagged or whatever. But like that Rose McGowan, she's like, "I'm gonna come out with all this information about dodgy politician." You can probably guess who it is. And like, why would you do that? Why would you like warn people? Why wouldn't you just say it?
Yeah.
And like now she's saying people have broken into her house and somebody tried to run her off the road and stuff. It's like, why didn't you just say it like firsthand? Why did you have to kind of work everybody up?
Preface it, yeah.
Like, that's what gets me with these kinds of things. Man, this
it makes you wonder
so
if it's... Oh, thanks. It makes you wonder if the whole thing's set up, if it's all just theatre. The whole thing is theatre.
What's the one? The one I actually do believe is that kid. Is that kid?
Corey Feldman.
Yeah, he's not a kid anymore. He's disheveled.
Yeah,
Gen X guy, but Elijah Wood doesn't get any jobs anymore.
Yeah, there you go.
And what did he say? He said the only reason I wasn't diddled was because, I didn't go to the parties.
Yep. If you don't go to the parties, you don't get the work.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. Like this Crazy Days and Nights website. If you go and just have, and like I said, you ignore the stuff about who's getting divorced or who's banging who. There's a whole bunch of stuff about Henry Cavill wanting to bang that Millie Bobby Brown chick that's so there's all stuff like that in there. But if you go beyond that, there's deeper, darker stuff. It doesn't turn up all the time. You've got to go looking for it. But there's enough there to make you start thinking. And we've heard enough bad stuff about Hollywood to know there's got to be stuff going on. And this, I suppose the sad thing about it aside from that it's happening, that's the Norm Macdonald joke. Norm Macdonald joke, isn't it? It's like with Bill Cosby. I thought the bad thing was all the rapes. Yes, that is the bad thing. That is the awful thing. But for people who enjoy Hollywood, I think what really gets them and why they don't want to engage is because once you get past a certain, I can't do that. Once you get past a certain point with this stuff, you realize just about everybody's in on it. Like you don't get a pass. You know, they say, oh, you know, Chris Pratt, because he's a Christian, he's getting this and that, and they're not being fair to him, and he's losing work, and he's speaking out, and if the stuff these guys are talking about is real, you don't get to his level without doing some stuff anyway. So it's all theater. None of it really
But
matters.
you are a Christian, and you do believe in redemption. You do believe that people can change, and you do believe that people can do bad things and then regret it.
Oh yeah. And that's why you get these people that I think come out and tell stuff. They have to tell because they know they can't keep it on the inside. They've made a mistake and they need it.
This is something that a lot of people, like my mother is a good example of this. She's not an example of what you're talking about, but when people, you will criticize something. Like one will criticize something. I'll criticize something. And then somebody will say, well, you used to do this. And like, that's how we know it's bad. Like a good example is I was saying, students at university, most of them are not actually studious. They're getting involved in activism. They're getting involved in drugs and alcohol, and a lot of them are barely taking any. I'm not saying like, you know, there's obviously good students in the world. And I'm not tarring every student with the same brush. But what I'm saying is that on university campuses, there is a lot more hijinks going on than there is studying in many universities across the world. And my mother's response to that was, yeah, well, you used to go out to nightclubs and drink and party all the time. It's like, yes, like, exactly. That's how I know that this happened.
I know that it's not good. That's right.
That's how I know, like,
that it's going on, that it's real, and that it's an issue.
Yeah, like, that's how I know it's bad. That's why I know it's not good. That's why I know it's not worth sending your kids to university. You know,
I think they do that because they're afraid of being judged themselves. I love you too, little man.
Well, that's exactly why they do it.
Nice little interlude. Yeah, because they don't want the
Well, we've seen recently that a lot more people would rather live with a lie than they would admit they made a mistake or admit they regret something. And I'm not going to go any further about that before people start, you know, kicking through doors, dragging me off somewhere.
It's only a matter of time.
Yeah.
And Sam's dipping into the MK Ultra thing. That's a whole thing. That's a lot more widespread than I thought it was.
That's a kettle of fish,
isn't it? Isn't it? I don't know enough about it to really comment on it too much, but I remember it being touched on and people sort of saying it was linked in with Hollywood and was being used in Hollywood. And I'm like, I don't really see what the purpose of that overlap would be, but I do get it now, and I do see the sort of the range that this sort of stuff has, and it does explain a lot. But you know, again, it's a rap. People want to be ignorant of stuff; they don't want to know. And if Hollywood's doing some nefarious shit to people in Hollywood, I said it recently on my one of my reviews of Khaleesi's comic book, that Mother of Madness. I essentially said, look, you know, if you didn't know what Hollywood was getting into it as a young lady, you do now because you've been in there for 20 years or whatever. Yeah. And you continue to stay there. So that's your choice. So you can't be mad at what Hollywood is when you're part of it now, because you continue to choose to be there.
Yeah.
When, you know, there are other options. There are other things you can do.
Although I know she's going to be in that new Shield show, isn't she's Khaleesi. She's going to be in a Marvel film now, or a Marvel show. She's going to be in Secret Wars.
Who's she going to be?
She's going to be Abigail Brand, apparently.
Yeah, I could see that. Bit of a minor sort of role.
You know, we're talking about all these, like, you know, a bit of a waste, though, isn't it? She could be somebody else.
Listen, like, you got the Eternals movie and stuff, so she needs to be, because she's got kind of that ethereal quality, you know. I feel like they could be doing something more with her.
Well, she probably doesn't want to be any kind of fantasy kind of thing. Maybe she wants to be a kind of kick-ass secret agent.
Yeah, maybe move away from that so she doesn't get too typecast.
Yeah. you know, you get people like Chris Pratt who play the same character in every movie.
Seth Rogen.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I like Chris Pratt, despite what you were just saying.
And that's another reason why it's tricky to talk about, because people will like, same with Keanu, like you can't talk shit about Keanu, but if you look at what's required of people to get to a certain level of success, it makes you wonder, is he the exception to the rule? Is there, because my brother is writing all this, and I often talk to him about it and sort of say, you know, I just can't believe everybody's in on it. Like there's got to be, so you look like the Left Eye Club. Have you heard of the Left Eye Club?
No.
So some people turn up and they've got a bruise on their left eye.
Look, it's all right for you living in the middle of nowhere in Australia, but I don't. So I'm worried that, like, you know, worried I'm going to get
suicide in the back of the head
with two guns,
two rounds in the back.
Yeah.
We can talk about something else if you want.
Yeah, no, it's all right. I feel like there's something missing off his chest. It feels like there's a bit of empty space.
Yeah, I was going to chuck a bandolier and some other stuff across it. And a bit of,
a belt or 6.
Yeah, a belt or 6. But
should we give him 6 belts?
He got 1. I mean,
no, I mean,
crossband.
That's what I mean. 6 bandoliers.
Yeah, just his whole chest. Have you seen that pouch man picture that gets around where somebody's just drawn? He's like his whole completely made up of pouches. His head's a pouch. His body's a pouch. He's got pouches of belts.
Yeah, it's Rob Liefeld for you. Yeah.
Do you want to tell us about some of Aquila's powers then?
Well, he doesn't have powers.
What the suit lets him do? What the suit lets him do then? Because it's pretty broad, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, he can fly. He can't. He's not got wings or anything like that, despite being named after an eagle. But he can levitate. His boots have got repulsors and anti-gravity kind of technology in it that helps him. You know, he can fly, float, zoom through space. But like I was saying earlier, there are limits to what he can do, because his suit is ultimately powered somehow, and it will run out of battery. It doesn't have the kind of infinite potential that a arc reactor would have, let's say. So, you know, it amplifies his strength. He's got super strength effectively. It makes him, it's got limited invulnerability, but it can generate force fields and deflector shields and such. His helmet has got a head up display and a kind of AI computer that advises him on. It doesn't talk to him necessarily, but the head up display shows him points of interest and helps him with missile weapons guidance systems, and he has to it's like Jarvis, he has to command the suit to do things before he can't do it on instinct. It's not like it's not intuitive in that way. But
like a Green Lantern power ring, he just thinks it and it happens, whereas your guy has to be specific. If he says the wrong thing, he's going to get the wrong effect.
Yeah. And the other thing is like, let's say there's like a chemical or something. There's a chemical or something that's he's trying to figure out what it is. The head-up display can identify what it is. Yeah. Based on, because it can zoom in on like the molecules or whatever and kind of see the chemical composition. But there are limits to what his power is, and that's not necessarily because the technology. Why is he if he's in space and he can do all this stuff and his suit should be able to do it? Don't forget that he is shoved into the backwaters. The solar system is forgotten. That's where the aliens don't come here. They don't come to Earth because they think it's a backwater hole and there's nothing of interest there. And the ones that do, they're often just going there for, going there to cause a bit of mischief, just to make the humans panic, make the humans freak out. But he is in the backwaters. He's not been given the best technology. He's been given an old suit from the back of the cupboard. Said, here, put this on. Put this on. Go stop a bit of crime. Even though even though it's a major highway for criminals to smuggle stuff throughout the galaxy, they just Aquila knows that. He knows he knows what's going on. But the people in head office, they're more concerned about Galactus. They're more concerned about Darkseid, and not these characters exactly, but
the equivalent. So that level of threat. I sort of saw it as like if you wanted to stop illegals getting into America, you'd set up. You don't go set up in the middle of the desert and wait for them to wander across you. You set up at key points and stop them at those points. Yeah. So I feel like Aquila's like being shoved into the middle of the desert, this no man's land of the solar system, of space. Said, all right, you deal with what happens there, and they pick up the big threats at either end where civilization is. He's stuck out in the boondocks, sort of going, well, shit, what do I do now?
Yeah. Crazy Mad in chat says, so this is space squatches versus humans. No. So Ursat's this character who's on screen right now. Yes, he is a space squatch, but he is the leader of a gang and the gang is like, they look like the extras from Jabba's palace. They're all eclectic aliens, mean-looking aliens, ugly, Mad Max kind of aesthetic, Chaos Space Marine, fashion catalog. He is the leader. And Aquila is a human who has been, his origin story is, he's a small town cop from Nebraska. And one day he sees something crash in the middle of a field. And he goes over to see what it is. And all of a sudden, a space cop shows up and says, nothing to see here, go about your business. And Aquila says to this guy, he says, no, this is, as far as I'm concerned, this is police property. You're trespassing or whatever, that kind of deal. And Aquila confronts this alien who's much more highly equipped than him. And the alien sees this kind of gallantry, and says, wow, this guy, he's standing up to me, even though he's just got a little projectile weapon that can't even dent my armor, and he's still standing up to me. This guy's got what it takes. This guy's got cojones. He says, okay, I'm retiring soon, and there might be a job available for you. Come with me. And that's basically what happens. And he gets given the job. And that guy now lives on a retirement place on Mars. He's found he's made his own little kind of, he's got his own little homestead on Mars where he likes to, relax and kind of go sand surfing and stuff.
That's cool. I've always got sort of an old West vibe, like a new sheriff in town sort of thing.
Yeah.
Some of the aesthetic and the wildness. Because, back in the day, you just had the one marshal to deal with the whole area. And even today in some parts of America, you'll have a sheriff and a deputy dealing with all the problems of the whole town, whether it's a cow got out or whether somebody's murdered.
Well, a good example of that is No Country for Old Men.
Yep.
Where you've got, this guy who's completely out of his depth. There's a hitman about his town, And not just any kind of hitman, but like some kind of brutal.
Yeah, like he's not just walk up and shoot with the shotgun and walk away. He's like he's almost like a Batman villain. Like he's got this level of menace that a regular
hitman has. The coin toss scene is straight out of Batman. Cormac McCarthy was reading some Two-Face. I don't care what you say.
His books are have you read many of his books?
No, I can't. I can't follow the writing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying he's a bad writer. I'm saying I'm a bad reader.
I don't know, man. Like I think like the point of writing is for writing to be read. If you can't read the writing, I've tried to read Blood Meridian about 6 times, and I can't do it. It's just like stream of consciousness, random sort of stuff happens. Nobody's given a name, nobody's identified.
Millions of people read his books though, so it can't, it can't be that.
No, I'm right there, Roll.
And his his novels have won awards and stuff, as far as I know, have been turned into movie. The counter argument to that is Twilight, but it's not exactly in the same ilk, is it? It's not in the same ilk. It's for that, there is a name for those type of things. If you like the The opposite of that is Chuck Palahniuk, who wrote Fight Club,
Mm.
and everything's in short sentences and kind of scattered haphazardly around the
Yeah.
page. You know,
Definitely stylistic sort of choice.
stylistically designed to be that way. You take one thing out and it all falls apart.
You shouldn't have to. Yeah, you shouldn't have to reread whole pages and paragraphs to know what's happening.
Yeah.
And so, maybe it is a reader thing as opposed to a writer thing. But when I read Blood Meridian or any of Cormac McCarthy's stuff, I constantly have to go back and reread paragraphs to see what's happening, because it's not like the idea of writing is to communicate. If you're not communicating effectively, I think that's a shortcoming. And like you said, a lot of people like your stuff, and it has won awards, and it is lauded as he's considered one of the greatest writers of the 21st century.
The water cascaded from the jug into the glass with the ferocity of a waterfall in New York State, he said. That would be like a Cormac McCarthy sentence, or at least half of a Cormac McCarthy sentence.
And I've got a very rambling writing style, which I've had to change to be a lot punchier because of the content that I'm writing these days. But his stuff is almost stream of consciousness, and he'll say the man. There'll be 4 people in the scene. He'll refer to the man, and the man. It's 3 different men. He doesn't follow any of the conventions of I don't want to say like popular writing, like writing that can be read and interacted with. If your audience has to work hard to interact with what you're doing, maybe you're not doing it right.
Yeah. Like I said, I mean, I tried reading The Road.
Yeah, I tried that one as well.
But when I found out what actually happens in that, I was kind of, somebody kind of clued me in about what happens later on. I thought, well, maybe I won't read it. So I kind of put it to one side and didn't pick it up again. And I think I tried to read No Country for Old Men, and I didn't not finish that because I didn't enjoy it or anything like that. I think I didn't finish it because I got exams or something, and I got sidetracked. But it wasn't one of those where I just couldn't put it down and I had to keep reading. Which is that's more on me than it is on him. But I think 7 minutes. We just hit the 7-minute mark.
I just think I always try to make sure I make my writing as accessible as possible. When I write, I try to make I don't use words that are too big. If you guys have seen that Hemingway app, it's a great little tool to sort of show you it shows you the reading age that somebody would need to be to engage with your work, and a lower reading age is better.
I've not seen that.
Yeah, just get if you do prose stuff, I don't think it works so well in a comic book script, because in a comic book script you might be using technical language to describe something that's happening. But you take a chapter from I know you write prose. I've read some of your stuff.
Thanks.
Take a chapter or 2 of that, chuck that in Hemingway app, and it'll tell you what age somebody would have to be, what grade in school they have to be to engage with your work meaningfully. It tells you how many adverbs you've got and how many sentences you've got that are too complex. Now, you can keep sentences that are too complex if that's saying, I like run-on sentences. I like it when this happened and that happened and that happened and that happened all at once, because it overwhelms the reader with the sensation that the character is having. If they're overwhelmed, I want you to feel that level of overwhelmedness, or at least be able to identify, hey, that guy's feeling overwhelmed, without me saying he was overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So I like that sort of thing. So you don't have to follow it slavishly and do everything it says, but it's a great little tool to let you know if your work is accessible. And all my stuff is sort of like grade school level age reading level needed to engage with it, because I don't go over the top and I don't make it too complex. But it's still a complex story about with sex, drugs, and rock and roll and murders and stuff. It's got complexity in terms of the plot, but the language itself doesn't preclude anybody from engaging with my work.
Oz, great sage in chat, who seems to actually have a picture of Ersatz's dad as his display pic. He says Frank Herbert is my favorite writer, and the thing about Frank Herbert, he planned Dune for, I think it was somewhere like 8 to 10 years before he actually put pen to page.
Wow.
Which goes to show kind of planning is, he wrote the book that inspired Star Wars, and that goes to show planning is
key.
Yeah. And the other thing is like the story for Dune was inspired by him reading articles about coastal erosion.
What a strange place to get your inspiration from.
Yeah. It might not have been coastal erosion. It might have been something like, what else could it be? It was like something like the movement of sand dunes on beaches or something like that. It was like a really kind of,
something really mundane and everyday.
Kind of mundane, yeah. And what's the name of the guy that wrote 007?
Fleming,
yeah. Ian Fleming chose the name James Bond because it was the most boring name you could possibly imagine. And he got it from a book about birds, and it was something like the birds of an encyclopedia of birds of North America by James Bond. And Fleming thought that was the most boring book. He imagined, who James Bond would be, and he imagined the most boring person you could possibly imagine. And he thought, well, that's the perfect name for a secret agent, because nobody would look twice at you.
Yeah, and then they turn him into the most ostentatious, over the top. Like everybody's heard of Bond in his movies. Now, Mr. Bond, I presume. Say, well, why would you have heard of him? He should be a ghost. He should be nobody.
Yeah,
I do like the two sides. I do like Superstar Spy, and I do like Brotherhood of the Rose, where it's all very seedy and seamy, and it's about triple agents and who knows who, and briefcases exchanging hands in alleyways, where spycraft isn't about stopping Dr. No's giant laser plot. It's about getting documents that proves something that gets somebody else in trouble, so you've got leverage over them to get this thing that you want.
Yeah, I suppose these spy movies often work best when the original mission turns into something that it wasn't actually supposed to be.
With the company men, that's what happens. They go in looking for to stop a terrorist attack, and they find there's something much, much bigger behind it. It's not just an attack on a location or a place for a particular ideology. There's a much bigger plot at work, and they realize if they don't get in and stop this from happening, it's going to lead to World War III. This isn't just blowing up and Boko Haram claiming responsibility for blowing up a building and killing 37 people or something like that. Not to say that's mundane, but unfortunately that's the news. That's what we hear all the time. They realize it's like
that's not missiles.
Yeah, it's not James Bond wouldn't get out of bed for a Boko Haram bomb blowing up 37 people. No, they'd give that to somebody less accomplished, because it's pretty standard these days, unfortunately. How you feeling about the design, mate?
I'm loving it. Yeah.
I
think it's really good. Possibly, maybe it's a bit too late now to say it, but a bit of hair on the legs might have worked, but it's fine. The boots.
We could open the caps of his toes and have his claws and stuff sticking out.
No, he needs his grav boots. He needs to. Those boots are meant to have like repulsors underneath, so they need to be kind of.
We could do bare thighs and have like a Kirby-esque underpants thing happening.
No, I think it's fine. Maybe. I don't want to lose what you've already done though, so that's the bring.
Yeah. And the other thing is
you could save it and then reopen it as a separate file, and then
it's like the hood on the Sinner. It's like that's not. I keep talking about it, so obviously it still bothers me, but it doesn't change who he is. It doesn't change his actions at all.
Have you tried compromising on something in between a hood and something else?
I don't. Well, see it
like a cowl.
I can't show the picture. No. Well, he's got like a. People wear the. Back in the day, you'd do. There'd be a stage production of Faust or something.
Yeah.
And Satan would be there, and he'd have he'd have like a cowl, hood, head condom type stocking thing, and they'd place a hard mask over top of their face to represent the devil's face. So he's got like a hard mask sitting on his face over a Batman like head sheath cowl thing, and then I had designed like a little collar, like how Satan, the devil as opposed to Satan, the devil shown as having like a collared cape in most traditional media. So you had like almost like a little disco collar sort of thing, sort of popped up that made his silhouette. So he had the horns, he had the Batman head shape, then he had the collar and the spiked shoulders, so it didn't look too Batman-esque. And then Dean really wanted this hood. And if you put the hood on, there's this great effect where you put the hood up and it rests over the top of the horns. So the horns and the horns stick out, and you can see the eyes in the depths of the darkness. And it's a great visual. But hood to me says mysticism. It says Moon Knight. It says D&D wizard. It doesn't say superhero so much. There's something about a hood that makes the character seem more mystical or mythical to me. That's not what I wanted. And he couldn't get on board with the collar, and everybody else that saw it. I don't know if Ali's probably not still around, but she said that she said the disco collar made him look like he was like at a gay cabaret or something, and everybody liked the hood more. And even now, I look at the picture I drew, and it's like a worm's eye view looking up at the character, and he's and you got the horns and the collar in the wind, sort of sitting up and sharp. It just makes this great silhouette. Whereas a hood's just like this. I hate drawing hoods. I don't know why anybody put a hood on their character, because then you've got to draw it every bloody panel.
What will sell the most toys? Gwen, Spider-Gwen.
Yeah. And that's what I mean. Like, ultimately, it doesn't change who the character is or what he does. And Dean's an accomplished enough artist to make it look good, even if it looks different than how I imagined. I had a design in my head, and I just said to him, look, I drew it, because I can draw well enough to draw a design. And I said, there you go, that's what he looks like. And then Dean was challenging me on stuff. And I'm like, don't challenge me there, bro. This is my project. Just draw what I've got you to draw. But the character ended up looking better for him saying, can we push this? Can we push that? He didn't just accept what I handed him. He pushed back on some stuff. And because of that, it's a better design all round.
Yeah. I mean, that's how it works. You know, like the artist sometimes knows better.
Yep.
And that's what, didn't somebody, there was like the original Spider-Man costume or something, like Stan Lee didn't want it to be red and blue or something. Or
yeah,
Jack Kirby didn't want it to be red and blue.
I heard red and black originally.
Did I say Jack Kirby?
Yeah.
Steve Ditko.
Yeah. The one that comes to mind is Batman, when you see what Bob Kane originally had designed versus what we got, talk about night and day. If there's a great comic that gets around on Twitter, I don't know if you've seen it. It said if Batman was created by just Bob Kane and Bill Finger was never involved, and it's just Batman with the blonde hair and the red suit and the actual Da Vinci bat wings ripped straight off his manuscript, and he stops a robber and he says, so is there? And in this version of Batman takes the robber into the police station. He says, here you go, I caught this guy trying to steal something. Like, cool, thanks for that, guy. What are you, some sort of Batman? He goes, yeah, I've got these wings. He goes, do you have anything else? He goes, no, that's it, just these wings. And then the Batman says, is there anybody I could talk to, like a police commissioner or something? He goes, no one like that. He goes, what about some interesting or colorful villains that could make for interesting stories for me to no, nothing like that. He goes, okay, I guess I'll go home then. And it's like, that's the end of Batman. There was never anything else, because without Bill Finger, you had a very, very basic concept.
Yeah, I'm looking at the artwork now. Like nowadays, what they would have done is they would have made that character into they would have integrated that character into that design. I mean, into the story as something else. It's like kind of like what George Lucas does with a lot of his discarded Star Wars concept art. The originally Darth Maul. He didn't actually have an idea of what he wanted Darth Maul to look like. So he said to the concept artists, draw what you imagine pure evil looks like.
Wow.
And so all the concept artists kind of, drew out their designs, and then combination of him saying, I want a bit of that and a bit of this and a bit of that and a bit of this. That's how we got Darth Maul. But a lot of those original concept artists, a lot of those original concepts were integrated into other Star Wars media. So, and they've done that for a lot of stuff.
Will you go see it? Yeah.
And so in the Clone Wars, there's a character who's called Mistress something. She's like a witch, and she's meant to the design for her is reused concept art, and I think Asajj Ventress as well. She's reused concept art, and there's a character in the Rebels TV show who is he's the original design for Chewbacca.
Oh yeah,
he's like a
cool.
purple Bigfoot.
I mean, why not? Why waste them?
Why? Well, you've got all these these good ideas. It's not like you're not saying that the idea is bad. You're not saying that the artwork is bad. You're not saying that the drawing is bad. You're saying that it doesn't fit what you're looking for. It's not necessarily the same as, and repurposing something, repurposing something for something else is, why not? Like in the Mandalorian that was just on recently, there's an episode where he goes to a planet with ice spiders, and that idea comes from concept art that Ralph McQuarrie did of Yoda's home planet, like 40 years ago.
Wow.
So it's. But I tell you what, I watched that Star Wars Visions last night. I didn't watch all of them. I watched about 3/4 of them.
Oh, that's the anime sort of one.
Yeah, you know what? Just give Star Wars to the Japanese. just like they treated it with so much reverence and affection and love. You could feel the love. You could feel like it. Don't know how refreshing it was to see that universe portrayed in a way that was loving and and was in a way that was done with care, and when you see like a lot of the when you see like I know you don't care about Star Wars, but The Last Jedi, which was just done just in mockery of Star Wars and Star Wars fans. Yeah, I think I kind of agree. I think the Elder, the one I liked best so far was the one where I can't remember what it was called, but it was the one where the Jedi is like hiding out from Order 66, and she's in the village where the gangsters have held the village hostage, and they say like they take the girl they take the bride as collateral. I'm not really explaining this very well. The gangsters take the tribal chief's daughter as collateral, as a hostage, and that was the one that I liked. That one the best. I felt that was. I don't know why I liked that one so much. I think it was possibly because it was like more about, she was a Jedi that was like trying to keep hidden, and she didn't want to be exposed, but in the end she did the right thing. That might have been it.
It sounds like a classic sort of story too. Whether it's medieval times, cowboy, or samurai. Yeah, the little town in danger, 7 samurai, Yimbo, fistful of blood.
The first one actually, the first episode of that Visions. They're only 5 minutes long. The first episode of that is really samurai movie. Really, it's done in like old-fashioned kind of. It looks like really kind of classic. It's barely even anime, because it looks like it's all done with wood blocks, like the old Japanese artists used to do, and it's all sepia, and it was really interesting seeing that kind of design with aliens and spacemen. Yeah, it was written very Kurosawa, but like the animation I'm talking about was really the animation was really kind of old woodblocks, you know. It was fantastic, and it was all aliens and space guns, and but it was also samurai, which is why it works, because that's what George Lucas was inspired by.
Yeah,
he was inspired by retro space fiction. Well, what we would consider retro. Even then, naturally, it was retro to him. Even
I
then,
would say so. Yeah.
Retro space and Old West and samurai.
And maybe that you can attribute its popularity, Star Wars popularity, to the fact that it hits so many. Like all the stuff you said there is stuff that I like. Now, I'm not a fan of Star Wars at all, and I'm not against it. Like I'm glad it's there, and I'm glad people enjoy it. It's just never quite landed for me. But I like all that stuff you've just listed off there. So maybe that's why it's so successful, because it hits so many beats for so many people. If you like Western, if you like, Flash Gordon retro ray gun type stuff, you like samurai and sword fight and that sort of stuff, it's got something for everyone.
Yeah, there's barely any of that Jeff Gordon. He's the NASCAR driver. Flash Gordon. You don't really see that in the aesthetic of Star Wars, though.
No.
Even though that's what inspired him, it's not like the space guns and everything in there. It's not like, like really obvious ray guns where there are like coils around them with like
it's like a rocket with a handle and coils on it,
like a bright green gun and it's got like a bauble in the end. It's not that type of technology, and it's not like spandex, so I understand that that's what inspired him, but I don't really see how it made as much of an influence on the aesthetic as, say, Old West and samurai. Is it basically just a science fiction angle? Man, that looks so good.
Yeah, I think it's pretty close to being. Hold on, little one wants me to go see her. I'll be right back.
No worries, man. Yeah. All right. So there's not any dead. Can people in chat talk so I can respond? Yeah. I liked though. I started off not liking the one where it's the little cyborg boy. I started off not liking that, and I kind of grew on it as I watched it. I was surprised by the one with where they make the rock band. I thought, oh my god, this is so silly, but I actually ended up liking that one too. That was the one I felt actually had so much love for Star Wars in it, because it was both prequels and it was Jabba, which is very sequel. And it was Order 66, but it was also, Tatooine. But there was there was a lot. I still need to watch the last couple, but I'll get to them. Yeah, the chibi Boba Fett. See, I didn't think I'd like that, but I actually ended up liking it. Does it affect the band? Does it affect the brand integrity? Right, seeing Boba Fett as a chibi. Well, all it was, he was still a badass. He was still a bounty hunter. He was still trying to capture the villains. He wasn't out of character. Just because the art style was a bit cutesy didn't take away from it. Didn't make Boba Fett any less of a villain. Now, if they'd have drawn him as a chibi and he was having hearts in his eyes, do it like that thing that we do in anime where characters float when they're in love with somebody, you know what I mean? Something kind of silly like that. If he was doing something like that, then yeah, of course. But the most that they saw him be that was anything outside of character was him tapping his foot to the band's music at the end. That's it. And that's not out of the ordinary, because we've seen Boba Fett enjoy music before. And we've seen Jabba the Hutt enjoy music before. So I really liked it overall.
She didn't want me at all. She wanted a brother. She's like, not you, Dad. Fine. Cheeky.
We've got Crazy Mad said, "Do you like My Hero Academia?" Yeah, me too. That made me fall back in love with comics. I had this like dearth of, not wanting to write superhero fiction for a while, and I watched My Hero Academia because Professor Geek said, he recommended it actually. He doesn't like anime much, but he recommended that, and I checked it out. I watched one episode and I thought, oh, I'll watch the next one. I'll watch the next one. I'll watch the next one. I ended up watching the entire series in a week. So, yeah, I really. Yeah. We're just adding some little bits of details there. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. It's my mic is the USB on my mic is a bit temperamental. So if you touch it, then it could,
Is there anything else in particular you want before we sort of? I mean, because in terms of design and stuff, like look at his knee pad there. It's got kind of like a angular shape. Like the artist doesn't have to replicate that perfectly. The idea is that he's got a shin pad, a knee pad, and a thigh bit. Like it doesn't have to be exact. It's a sensation of armored in that way, So he doesn't have to stick to it line for line. Just the overall. I mean, you sort of.
You know what? There is something I think might be a bit missing, and I think you might agree with me on this. Like a Space Marine style backpack.
I was thinking about a backpack because I'm pretty sure there's a bit in the script there where he's doesn't he make use of a backpack? Aren't they sort of like jetting around at one point?
Yeah.
Yeah, righto. I had that in the original sketch and I didn't carry it over, so we can add that in.
Yeah.
And we'll come back and do another one soon and get some of his underlings designed.
Yeah, no doubt. I can't wait. Yeah, no, My Hero Academia felt more like an American superhero comic than most American superhero comics.
That's sad. That shouldn't be the case. It shows how much they've lost their way.
Yeah, and they do. He does interesting things with the concepts and the tropes and stuff like that. And he doesn't shy away from the things that Comicsgate started out about. They aren't afraid to show women looking good. Let's just put it that way. Shout out to Bubbles, I think her name is.
I suppose we'll have to come up with.
I'm thinking like a Chaos Marines backpack is more.
Oh, with the wing bits.
They kind of like, you know what I'm not rather than like a Space Marine kind of.
Well, the Chaos Marine ones from memory, don't they sort of like?
Yeah.
Yeah, you got some of that action happening.
Yeah,
that's like the booster.
Yeah.
No, they don't have. No, there's a power pack for them. They don't have it as a booster, but for this guy, we could make that the
Crazy Mad, my friend. As part of the universe that Aquila is set in, so the Aquila is a police officer. He works for the Phoenix Guard. The Phoenix Guard are the police force for an international agency, which is basically the Federation from Star Trek or the Republic from Star Wars, which but they're a lot less competent. And there is a navy, there is an army, and there is a like a police force. There's also like an emergency services type, and one of the ideas I had was basically like a Trek style story about a crew that is in the Aquila universe, but they're in the the Navy. They're in the Space Navy. And, you know, I imagined like a Star Trek kind of thing. Oh, I've not done the campaign yet. So when I get the ball rolling on that, I'm sure Kimo will put me over, or I'll be on here again too.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah, Aquila is my book. So Aquila is my character I've had since 2016, 2017. And I've been working on scripts. The script that I'm bringing out, it's only 22 pages, but it's 22 pages of, you know, it's fun, it's lighthearted. It's not supposed to be Kingdom Come, and it's not supposed to be All-Star Superman. You know, it's not meant to be one of these big seminal comic pieces, and it's good old-fashioned cops and robbers. It's just an ordinary run-of-the-mill story, and I'm not saying that in a boring way. I'm not saying it's boring. I'm not saying it's uneventful. I'm not saying it's exciting. I'm not saying don't be interested. I'm saying it gets back to the roots of comics. It's you know, like I was saying earlier, it seems like nearly every Batman comic, every story's got to be a part of some great grand conspiracy, and
They're all trying to replicate Court of Owls, aren't they? They're still trying to capture that magic.
It's got to be, or it's like putting Batman as the center of the multiverse, you know, with the Barbatos and all the Dark Knight's metal and stuff like that. It's like, remember when Bruce Wayne was just a guy who wore a costume and went and beat up guys in silly outfits? That's, you know, like Spider-Man, you know, it's like Spider-Man. It's just Spider-Man stopping guys robbing banks, stopping guys from robbing supermarkets, you know. It's but it's, you know, it's in space. It's got I'm going for like a rusted retro punk, atom punk, ray gun gothic kind of aesthetic. That's what I'm kind of going for. It's black. It'll be in black and white for the first issue, just to kind of get back to those roots of the old-fashioned science fiction comics. And you know, Flash Gordon, Buck Rogers, Dan Dare, those types of comics.
Love all that. Love that whole era. There's so much good stuff there that people don't even know is there. Don't even know it exists.
Yeah, but, you know, bits of Conan the Barbarian, bits of John Carter of Mars in there too. You know, obviously you probably imagine Star Wars is a big influence on me. And you know, I'm following the path to, you know, what George Lucas did. Took things that he liked and meshed them together. I like science fiction. I like superheroes. I like space politics. You know, I like you know, I like everything that's you know, everything that's going to be in the book is inspired by something. I'm not going to do something that I'm not enjoying. It's like a syncretic not book based on all the stuff that I like, and there's going to be a lot more in the future as well. And I've got a lot more stories to tell from different characters, different parts of the universe. You know, I've got some street level heroes. I've got some.
I was going to ask you, you're going to be keeping, I won't name drop, but you're going to be keeping some of those other characters that I'm aware of. Are you going to be keeping those in the Aquila universe? You're still going to do a shared universe with all your characters?
Not every single one of the, you know,
Yeah.
You know, one of the books that I've been working on is kind of precious to me. I'm not gonna integrate that into Aquila, but the vast majority of the ones that I've spoke to you about, you know, the
street level one in particular you're talking about? Your Spider-Man, so to speak.
My Spider-Man / Ninja Turtles. Yep. And I've got my Batman / you probably Batman Daredevil / Kamen Rider, you know.
I didn't even say that. Of course, yes. I don't know how to miss. I missed that because I've never seen it. I'm only aware of it in a pop culture sort of sense. How's that for the backpack with those like those?
Yeah, I like it. Put some spikes on there, though, will you?
Of course.
Or 6.
Yeah, 6 spikes. Well, I could get rid of more spikes and add more belts. Just strap some belts on here.
Brother, what about if you make those the ball things at the end? What if you make them spiky like one of those old medieval maces?
Yeah, that's what I was seeing, like a morning star.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, brutes from Halo. I didn't even think about that. I'm not really a Halo. I've played bits and pieces of Halo, and I'm interested in the setting, but I'm not really a video gamer, so I've not really. If that's what happened, that's what it just came out like. More bandoliers. Yeah, I think maybe in the future I might just have a character called Bandolier, and I'll just make him have. I'll give him like, or maybe one of Aquila's, one of Ursatz's cronies. He can have six or seven Bandoliers.
He doesn't have any powers. He's just got like a really big gun, and because of that, he needs heaps of ammo, and he just goes through ammo like no one's business.
You ever see small soldiers? You ever see that movie?
No.
You would absolutely love that film. Do you know anything about it?
Yeah, the toys come to life.
Yeah, he kind of looks a bit like Archer, leader of the Golden Knights. Major Chip Hazard. He's got his soldiers, and they've all got defined roles. I really like that. There's the heavy arms guy and the munitions expert and the I can't really think off the top of my head.
We were talking about something the other day. I was on a stream with Dojo Kun and Eric Kennedy and Mark Polton, and they're talking about like superhero teams and how each teams in some teams you got your tech guy, you got your people got different roles.
Yeah.
And then sort of talking about whether your team as a creator, I was on there with those guys, that there's not really a tech guy in company, man. They're all like field agents. If they need something done, I don't have a Forge, I don't have a Batman or a Mr. Terrific. If they need something made, they just requisition it, or it comes from it's like a soldier doesn't make his gun, he gets given his gun.
Yeah.
And it's just interesting to see how the different teams had different characters that fill those.
But the soldiers are taught how to take a gun apart and put it back together. Not to take away what you're saying, but like they know how to take it apart and put it back together, but they wouldn't be able to design a gun.
No, like Forge, he just does it in the field. He's like, I need a gun that does this. Well, pull this apart and add this to here, and magnetic flux capacitor, and then he's got a anti-magneto gun all of a sudden.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to Company Man. Can't wait to get it. Read through it, because you've been talking about this almost as long as, if not longer than since I propositioned you with Aquila and the others. Did you ever watch Firefly?
Yeah.
No, I never watched Firefly. Crazy Mad in chat wanted to know if you ever watched Firefly. Firefly was inspired by Cowboy Bebop, from what I understand.
Oh, that's cool.
Was it? Somebody correct me. I've never seen either of those. I'm sorry, but I've developed an. Actually, I'm not sorry. I've developed an allergy to Joss Whedon dialect. I can't deal with it anymore.
Yeah, I think that's become a pretty common stance these days.
And it's funny, a generation of kids have just been ruined by Joss Whedon's writing. It's like Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Firefly was so successful. I'm not taking away from that, but they were successful for whatever reason. I've never watched either, but it was so successul to the point where it was replicated, and everybody wanted to write like Joss Whedon, and that just kind of permeated through the culture. And now you've got an entire generation of people who are just like that's how they talk.
Yeah.
Did you see I don't know if mentioning it will get you striked or anything. There was a prominent
Only one way to find out.
A prominent investigative reporter team interviewed somebody that works for the body that administers drugs and food in the United States, and they cornered him.
Yeah.
That guy was like, he was out of a Joss Whedon script.
Yes.
Oh,
Yep.
maybe blow darts, like that, like just read straight out of Buffy. It's like, well, blow darts are the sale. What is it you said? Blow darts are the solution to everything.
Yeah. It's
like he was
creepy
acting, and he was creepy as well.
He was. I was trying to think of an example of but that's a perfect sort of example of that sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, I know. An example was I was walking with my dog, and the dog stopped to do what a dog does when it goes on a walk, taking a dump. And I turn and I hear behind me some kid go, "I just saw that. I can't erase that." And I was, and he was talking to me about my dog taking a dump. I was just like, and the kid was like under 10,
Yeah.
I was like, this is this is how people talk now. This is just like,
and like you said, it's generational.
Well, it's because that got into the Avengers, and then that kind of carried through into Iron Man and Iron Man. It became. I mean, Tony Stark was always like that, but he made every character. Whedon made every character like that.
Yeah. What do you think about this, mate? I think that's pretty close to being done.
Yeah, that's it. It's done. I think if we were to add any more or take anything off, it would.
Yeah, and he can cable all those belts. He can just do whatever, Rob Liefeld, just cable of blocks on top of blocks on top of blocks. It doesn't have to be a specific design.
Yeah.
Just as long as there's straps to show that it's piecemeal and it's cobbled together and it's all got texture and it's all got spikes.
Yeah. Yeah. What's that little glowy thing on?
Oh, I don't know.
Is he an FBI agent?
Ha! Glowies. Where is it? There you go.
No, you can put it back on. I like it.
All right, cool. Well, I'll chuck a title on that and send that through to you.
Brilliant.
And
send that over to the artist, and we can send that over to Dino. You can get to work. Dino, not the British variation. Are you aware of the Dino phenomenon?
No.
No, Dino, it's become, like Chad is, like the name Chad has become a, like, archetype almost. It's the same, there's like a thing called the Dino, where it's like,
certain
Jack
type
the
of
Lad
person.
like a British Jack the Lad kind of nouveau riche, hijinks kind of lad. There we go.
Yeah.
What a font. Perfect font. Brilliant. I'm made up with that, mate. That looks fantastic. Okay. Put you in chat if you think this looks really good.
We'll just.
All right, so far no use.
I think we probably just about overstayed our welcome. I don't know if there's many people.
Here we go. We got three. Some guy called, I don't know who that guy is, but Oz and Crazy Mad say you in chat.
Excellent.
It's about half the audience. So. All right, fantastic. So, thanks very much for that, mate. I can't wait for us to work on his gang. We doesn't need to. We don't need that much detail on the rest of his gang, but we can add another layer to it. We can give them names. We can give them names in chat. We can come up with come up with ideas, because these guys don't have a defined look, So we could
This is where that evolutionary sort of stuff, all the biology. Okay, he's a lizard man, so what does that entail? What does he need to survive in his lizard environment? That sort of stuff. That's the fun stuff, coming up with all that. Yeah, that should never be a chore.
Yeah. I don't think it'll be it'll be hard. Yeah. One of my pet peeves, you'll probably agree with me on this, maybe not, is when instead of getting an alien, they just take an animal. You know what I'm getting at? Like, like they did that in Dragon Ball Super. Like Goku met all these like gods from across the multiverse, and they were all. One of them was a giant mouse. One of them was a cat. No, two of them were cats. Another one of them was an elephant. Like these are meant to be multiversal deities. One of them was a clown. One of them was Cleopatra. And they could have done, you could have done something really interesting, like anything, but they just went with.
Yeah.
Well, maybe they just kind of, because Dragon Ball originates from Journey to the West.
Yeah.
And that originates from Buddhism, which is it's influenced by, it's part of the Vedic tradition. So maybe animal gods isn't too far away from the original Hindu Vedic inspiration for Dragon Ball, for Journey of the West.
Yeah, it might have its place. It might work.
I mean, you can see what they're intending to do, but does it really work? I'm not really sure. But 3.5 hours, man. We need to.
It's nearly lunchtime. I'm going to go feed the kids.
I haven't had my dinner. It's 10 o'clock at night. I haven't had my dinner. So yeah.
Well, thanks everybody that showed up. Thanks anybody that stopped by, even if you couldn't hang around for the whole time. And we will be back. I don't know, maybe this time next week, if not earlier. I mean, this is good for me because this is the weekend. Like I can actually, the missus can watch the kids for a minute while I do this. So it's not a big deal. But during the weekday, I'm just taking care of them. So doing this sort of thing on a Monday might not work. But if not this weekend, then earlier. We'll see how we go. And we'll what do you reckon? Half a dozen gang members?
Half a dozen sounds a nice. Yeah, they won't be as intensely detailed or anything like that, but they're going to be cool. They'll all be Mad Max space aliens, so you can't get two of the coolest things you can do.
That's right. All right, cool. Well, everybody, I guess go see if the Diaz brothers are still streaming the launch of Lost Pages 2, because that's a fantastic book. Dean, thanks for stopping by again. And I'll probably have to do a draw stream soon. I've still got 100 sketch cards to draw.
150, isn't it?
Well, I had a look at the number of physical rewards that have been backed, and it looks like, I don't know, because I've sold nearly 250 copies of the book. So, yeah, maybe it is 150. Maybe it is 150 because it's like 200.
And also, you've got to draw every Power Ranger that's ever been for me.
I think I might be banned Power Rangers from the next stream.
You've got to draw Mesogog. I don't
know what that is.
Mesogog is the villain from Dino Thunder. He's amazing. You'd love him.
The villains. I might start the next draw stream with Is it Goldar? Is that the name of the original?
Goldar. Yeah, he was the henchman of Rita. Yeah, Lord Zed is another cool one.
That's right. Yeah, I might start with those two next draw stream. That gives me something to aim for, and then we'll pick up a bit of momentum and see what turns up in the chat. I think the bad guys are easy to draw than the Power Rangers themselves.
You need to do Mesogog. I'm going to show you Mesogog. I'll send you a link to Mesogog. Right. He's great.
All right, guys, that's it from today.
Not as great as Ursat's.
That's right. You always got to promote your own stuff.
Got to put myself.
I don't know if I'll be back on today. I might head out the shed and do some more 40k type stuff. I've been doing a little bit of that lately.
You nerd.
Yeah, I reckon.
Big nerd.
I can't wait to put up some pictures of these miniatures I've been converting. They look fantastic.
You're gonna have to send. You 3D printing now? You in the 3D printing game, or you just old traditional?
I've still got. I've got the printer. It's still in the box. I just need a day. I need everybody to. It's going to be impolite. I need everybody to fuck off for the day so I can clear out a space in the shed, set up this table, get it level, get the 3D printer set up, calibrated, working, and then I can start printing. I need a day at least before I can start printing even, you know? And I just can't get a break because the kids are always here, and I just can't get that time to get out and get it organized.
You should look up a game called Gaslands.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
I've not played it, but it looks really good. I've got a bunch of Hot Wheels that I intended to customize, but I never got around to it.
Yeah, I've got a lot of half-finished projects too.
Yeah,
but I've been doing a lot of converting, making real individual characters as opposed to you play. I do need to start 3D printing Guns Alley. That's right. I'm still trying to find.
Of course, you mean water guns and Nerf guns and potato guns.
Yeah, and those little gel cap guns and all that sort of thing. Still trying to work out how it works because from what it looks like in America, I don't know. Can you actually get ones that you print every single part of it on the printer? And there's absolutely no. Because I looked at one the other day and it says, okay, it's all 3D printed, but it uses a trigger from this model, a spring from that model, something from like we don't have any of that here. Like you cannot.
You are of course talking about water guns,
airsoft, and all that sort of stuff. We can't have airsoft in Australia.
Super soakers.
Yeah. If there's a super soaker out there that you can print the whole thing, everything, single part, and you don't need anything from anyone else, and all you need to do is buy the water to go in the gun from a water selling shop, then sure, I'll print that. But at this point, it looks like you need bits and pieces from other super soakers to make your own super soaker. You can't just have one that. I could be wrong. I'd like to be wrong.
Are you the type of person that would spray paint his super soaker so that it looked like a real gun? Some people used to do that, and then they got in trouble with the police.
I don't know if I'm still using super soaker as a metaphor now.
No, I'm talking about the real super soaker.
I don't know. The only reason I have it. Yeah, I'm on a watch list now.
He was on a watch list anyway.
I think so.
He was on a watch list because he went outside and picked his nose. So into his own garden. Oh,
it's pretty bad. At least we're not in Victoria. That's a saving grace. Yeah, so I'll probably spend the rest of the day out in the shed doing some Warhammer type stuff. I don't know if I'll be on.
Look, we're sitting here, we're laughing at Australia, but coming to a theatre near you. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. Everybody stay safe, stay away.
Kangaroos everywhere. You can't
even get their pouches anymore.
Yeah.
All right, we will catch you guys next time we do this. I'm probably going to do a draw stream later on this week, Monday, Tuesday. I might try and get some draw stream going because I need to get these cars done. So feel free to stop by there. If you've got nothing to do now, head over and see what the Diaz boys are up to because Lost Pages is a great book, and I'm really looking forward to book 2. Thanks for being here, mate.
We've got 17 likes. 17 likes.
Yeah, smang that like button if you haven't.
1 dislike.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Was it you?
No. Why would I dislike myself? What am I?
There's probably somebody that's crossed because I said something about Keanu. I don't know. I don't get a lot of dislikes because my stuff's not really wide. Like you got to have a certain size audience for people to be mad enough to dislike you. Like your boy's going to get 600 dislikes on every video because his videos get to 20,000 people. My videos
we're on 19 now, so half of 1%. No, wait, no, that's not right.
All right, thanks, guys. I'm gonna dip out. I will see you guys later on in the week. Love you all. Thanks for being here, and look forward to more of these design adventures in the near future. See you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.